Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching a movie on what if Naruto destroyed DXD universe. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Secure pocket dimension. That was it. A huge gray rock hovered in front of him. It was perfectly cut into a diamond. The entire rock was covered in runic symbols. They had a faint yellow glow. The rock was bound and sealed with the aid of silver holy chains. Around the rock, a thick, shimmering yellow barrier hung in midair. There was a tremendous concentration of holy energy on the rock. Most of it was applied to the seals holding the rock together. The protective barrier surrounding it was a hastily constructed measure by the fatigued god of scripture before he hurried to the battleground situated in a different dimension. It's incredible. He must have channeled some of heaven's energy into this dimension in some way to cause these seals to constantly renew. The Lord is indeed great. Well, if you had to go through all the trouble of subduing 666 then sealing it away, I bet you wouldn't want it breaking out quickly afterwards either. His response caused Rizam and the rest of Clipoth to laugh heartily. The first person to remark was their unwilling member, who could only look nervously between his laughing captors. The rock was surrounded by a strong barrier. The biblical god was able to erect a barrier that only his devoted followers could cross, despite how exhausted and hurried he was. The previous brute force attack by Rizam had not been sufficient to break it. The only member of his group who knew anything about barriers was able to identify a clear weakness in the barrier's design. The biblical god had rushed to reach the burning battlefield and had neglected to add any additional security measures to the barrier. Thus, a devoted disciple of his could breach the barrier and turn it off from within. Rizam discovered a priest who thought highly of his sister. The priest had agreed to assist in breaking down this barrier because his sister's and her family's lives were in danger. Achieve it. Right now. The priest entered the yellow barrier with ease and started chanting. Though he had no idea what was inside this rock, he hoped that the Heavenly Father would pardon him for his momentary weakness. After a few minutes, the barrier collapsed, and Rizam gave a menacing smile. All right. Murder him. With lightning speed, one of his henchmen came forward and severed the priest's head. The body and head sagged forward, colliding with the rock. Since it was the only gravitational source in this dimension, Rizam stepped closer to the rock, flapping his wings. Despite not being familiar with runic seals, he glanced over the seals and was impressed by what he could see. Look at this, folks, nearly 20,000 SS. Class holy seals and, if my math is right, at least 100 SSS god tier seals. This has a great deal of sealing power. In gratitude, one of his subordinates whistled. Another expressed his epiphany. Lord Rizam, how is it we are supposed to get this being to fight Great Red again? He laughed at the ignorance of his subordinate. Are you ignorant of 666? Even so, very little is known about this entity. It is a fact, though, that it engaged in a titanic battle within the gap with Great Red. Ophis saw it happen and reported that Great Red stopped 666 from going past the opening. Since our plans are identical, it will undoubtedly be helpful. Now, be quiet while I'm working. Rizam had been searching for a way to break the seals, but he was unable to do so when he attempted to channel demonic energy into the holy seals. That meant he would either be furious or his backup plan would have to work. He and his followers took off from the rock in the air. Then he started chanting, directing more than half of his magic into a powerful blow. Condensed pure magic into a large sphere. With a sly smile, he let loose the power onto the rock. A massive cloud of smoke billowed up and hung around the rock as the magic struck and exploded. A gust of wind revealed the still, taut rock beneath the smoke with a simple flick of his wrist. TCH, what the fuck is with this rock? He whispered. His henchman remained quiet, unable to contain his laughter at his seeming failure. One then lifted an arm and gestured. Observe, my lord. One section is absent. Yes, there was a tiny opening in the stone where his blow had landed. A dozen or so seals were missing, and a few others were damaged. Where he was aiming, the majority of the chains overlapped. Now that they had snapped off, they floated around the rock aimlessly. Now that the seals have been broken, 666 ought to be able to get out. The group remained silent, waiting to see what would occur. When it seemed that nothing was changing after a few minutes, Rizam began to gather his energy for another strike. However, as he did, a strange power began to emanate from the rock. A tiny amount of energy seeped through the hole, but it was so potent that it knocked out everyone but Rizam. A second probe of power shot out of the rock, seemingly as if the first tendril had just been examining its integrity. However, this accomplished much more. The stone burst. Haze hung in the air, shards flying in all directions. To shield themselves from the debris, everyone had their faces covered. The first person to look and see what they had just opened was Rizam. Beyond this confined space, an immense shockwave ripped through the planet. Over Japan, a single point in the sky produced an audible boom that broke people's ears. The phenomenon, which was a solid wave of energized air pressure that zoomed across the sky, terrified people all over the world. Every angel was on edge as the power was felt behind the golden gates of heaven, inside their own dimension. A shiver ran down the spine of those who remembered that fleeting sensation of power from years before. In a forgotten room, there was an empty chamber with a warning alarm ringing. Archangel Michael was unexpectedly engulfed in a flood of millions of prayers asking for assistance and safety from the incident. The sudden onslaught momentarily overwhelming him. He reached for his painkillers and took a mouthful as soon as he became conscious again. He was aware of that energy and certain that his growing headache would only get worse. Races like fallen angels, devils, and the many other mythological races were made aware of the foreign power in another parallel dimension. Its strength was so great that it tore at the spaces between this cluster of dimensions. A teenage girl in Japan, along with her peers, recuperated and hurried outside their clubhouse to join the increasing crowd of people staring skyward. Great Red halted his spiraling dive and stared out into the open space inside the real gap, a dimension that linked this group of dimensions to the larger universal dimension network. Therefore, he is now free. I wonder if that guy will return for a rematch. He made the decision to take off for wherever Ophis was hanging out. He wanted to be certain she wouldn't meddle once more. With great looping spirals, his massive bulk flew as he double-timed towards the Infinity Dragon. The Kuo Academy Occult Research Club was clueless about what was happening as they stared up at the sky. The 7 members of this club were the 6 current members plus the one who was always away. They were more widely recognized as Rias Gremory's peerage. A noble, upper class devil who shared power over Kuo. With the exception of Rias, every member had been reborn as one of her demonic aides. She preferred to think of them as her friends, even though treating them as servants was perfectly acceptable in society. She had recently overcome an unwanted arranged marriage with the group's assistance. Rias had been relishing his newfound freedom from being engaged while they had been unwinding in the clubroom after school. Riser Phoenix, her fiancé, was no longer a threat to her happiness in the future. But it seemed that the days of carefree enjoyment were behind us. A huge agitation had emerged above their city, and because of their proximity, the noise and pressure released were especially strong. Right now, Rias was searching for the other noble, upper class devil with whom she shared city control. She glanced at Sona Citri's slender figure and hurried over to her. They could see Sona's peerage gathered around their leader, and her peers were closing in on her. After a brief acknowledgement, the two groups went back to surveying their surroundings as their kings conversed. Sona, would you happen to know what that was? Based on how quickly the pressure increased and how loud the noise became. It was probably a shockwave from the highest level of being acting. However, I'm not really sure because we can't see them over our heads. Rias gave a head nod. Yeah, do you feel that energy signature? It feels really strange. Yes, it has an odd feeling to it, but it is very potent. A small white-haired head brushed against Rias's elbow. That made the girl turn and look, and Sona turned to look at her, too. It was Rias's Kaneko, Rook. Chakra. Kaneko, what was that? I was unable to hear you. Chakra is energy. Incredibly powerful. Ah, the chakra? How bizarre, really. What someone could have done with a chakra to get this effect is beyond me. Kaneko pivoted and resumed her survey of the area. Kaneko was relieved that her information hadn't been doubted, and her king, Rias, had faith in her sensor abilities. Because of their skill with chakras, her kind of yokai were naturally sensitive. In any case, I believe we should get in touch with someone. This disruption would have been powerful enough to affect people everywhere, including undoubtedly humans. Holy crap. Observe. An additional peer of Rias interrupted Sona. Being a very exaggerated person, no one knew what pawn, Issei's one and only, could be so loudly yelling about. However, they all started to look. Oh dear. Rias's queen, said Akeno. A number of jets could be seen spiraling out of control and nose. Diving into the city across the sky. Prez, we need to take action. We can fly because we are so strong, right? We are fully capable of saving them. Rias turned to face Sona's peerage, who were muttering to each other. Well, we could, Issei. However, altering so many memories would be difficult. I'm not sure what to do, therefore. A figure entered the black hole where the shockwave had originated before they could continue their conversation. The city was hit by the same chakra pressure from earlier. The citizens of the city were being choked by this figure's oppressive presence, and his power was overwhelming. Luckily, it vanished and Kaneko could hardly detect the figure at all. 5 dark blurs streaked across the sky, ensnaring each plane as the figure multiplied. Where they were securely lowered to the ground. Nobody knew where the figure went from there. However, the two peerages knew full well that a creature much higher than themselves was present in the city, and they were already making their way to a safe haven to make contact with someone. In the pocket dimension earlier, Rizam noticed a human figure floating in space when he turned to face the remnants of the rock. The figure was surrounded by a thick, blue aura that whipped violently before appearing to draw it in and calm the flaming blue energy. He could see steam rising off the figure and gently dissipating in the air above, even at this distance. The figure stretched, and he watched as they started talking. It was simple to listen in on the utter silence of the void. Yawn. Oh my god, I heard like hell. That damn old fool, he really thought that rock would hold me? Attention, Naruto Uzumaki is not easily defeated. You hear me, senior citizen. Once more, Naruto stretched. It had felt so small inside that rock. Then he turned to look around and saw a group of people. They were traveling with. Are those bat wings, fucking? Who believe you to be, guys? Strange bat wings that resemble some sort of Sasuke curse seal. My name is Rizam Levon Lucifer, and I am 666. The biblical god sealed you inside a rock, but I have freed you from it. I am aware that you were attempting to cross Great Red in the dimensional gap prior to losing. This is our strategy as well. Are you going to collaborate with us? Rizam requested Naruto's help directly, ignoring his remark about their wings in the process. Fantastic Red? Was that the large dragon I had battled before? Oh, and what happened to that old bastard? I'm going to tear off his beard and burn it in front of him while he watches. Ha ha ha. Rizam fixed his gaze on Naruto Uzumaki, or 666. He yelled as he broke apart the rock, revealing himself to be a young, fair-haired man. Before he could respond, Naruto materialized right in front of him and resumed his conversation. Hello, am I speaking to you? Why are the bat's wings off? And that old damn bastard, where is he? I'm going to kick his ass because he put me in that rock. Rizam threw himself away from Naruto, taking a few steps backward. This gave him a clear view of the man. This Naruto appeared to be 20 years old, if he had to estimate. He had light blue eyes and short, spiky blonde hair. His cheeks were adorned with a series of whisker-like marks. He saw the look on this being's face before his mind could process anything more. He saw the man begin to twitch his lip into a growl. Rizam spoke up before he could ask another round of questions. Naruto. I take it that you go by Naruto? He received a quick nod of the head in agreement. These are merely our demonic wings. Have you not heard of devils? Both sides found the question to be confusing. A creature that battled both Great Red and the biblical god was undoubtedly familiar with devils. In contrast, Naruto had no particular thoughts about devils. Aren't devils similar to demons or something? You guys don't have a demonic appearance. Although Rizam believes that devils should behave like demons, he doubted that the man in front of him would give a damn about his viewpoint. Demons are not devils. Although many people misunderstand us, we are unique. However, your second query is, about whom are you talking? Who is this old bastard that you're looking for? Finding out the men in front of him weren't demons satisfied Naruto. He sensed they were not going to attack him. He had been asked to assist the guy earlier. All he wanted to do now was track down the old bastard to reimburse him. He was a large, radiant man. Possessed a long, white beard. As swift and powerful as a Shinigami. What a hardened old bastard he is. I was in that rock with that guy. He should be here because he only 5 minutes ago put me in that rock. Once more, Rizam studied the blonde to gain a deeper understanding of him. He wore what was left of some frayed black pants and was shirtless. His body appeared fit, and he was barefoot. He appeared to be 5.5 feet tall. However, despite being sealed for several hundred years, he appeared to be in good health and had no injuries. The man's eyes darted to his clothes, and Naruto looked at him. Well, what do you know? My clothes are nowhere to be found. He touched a small black tattoo on his wrist, and Rizam watched as a puff of smoke obscured his form. Naruto was fully clothed in a black shirt and a black flak vest when it cleared. His black ninja pants had been swapped out for new ones, and he was wearing open-toed ninja sandals on his feet once more. He was currently taping down his left sleeve while wrapping white tape around his right. There was a tiny pouch fastened to his hip. Naruto gave him a quick glance and a wink. Well, whatever, I believe the person you were inquiring about is the god of the Bible. More than 300 years ago, he battled and sealed you inside that rock. Then, after sealing you and leaving to fight in the war, he passed away. Yes, he has passed away. With a sideways head tilt, Naruto narrowed his eyes as he looked at Rizam. With a subtle movement of his fingers and a swift burst of chakra, the tape roll inside his wrist was sealed once more. You're implying that the man I battled was a god? What specific kind of luck am I with? From one dragon to the next. Another conversation began inside Naruto's head as soon as he concluded his conversation with the man wearing 12 bat wings. It wasn't just him who awoke after smashing his chakra through the rock's opening. Kurama, a 9-tailed fox, had been imprisoned inside Naruto since shortly after the boy's birth. And Kurama was in dire need of hearing someone else's voice. They'd been sealed for 50 years, during which time he had been in a self-induced hibernation. Kurama was awakened by Naruto unleashing his chakra. Rather than chatting to Naruto right away, he had waited to observe their circumstances. After hearing all of the back and forth, he made the decision to talk to Naruto at last. Hey. The Naruto. Are you able to hear me? Ah, hello, Kurama. Do you believe that 300 years have actually passed? Hatred child. Yes, it has most likely been that long since I went to sleep after what felt like 100 years. You mean you weren't asleep when we entered this sealed space? Fuck me, what's going on if it's been over 300 years? Okay, so this is what I am aware of. You tore through to another dimension just as that dragon was about to defeat us. You went out and gave that old man a headbutt. Who is this god of the Bible, apparently? He attacked and overpowered your vulnerable state because he was furious. He then imprisoned you in what appears to be a pocket dimension. Even though you were gravely hurt at that point, the god couldn't waste the energy needed to murder you. Sealing you was a less wasteful process. In essence, you were frozen in time. Since I am sealed in a different pocket dimension inside your body, I was unaffected. I attempted to use our chakra to heal you, but it was unable to penetrate your body. Fortunately, because you were essentially frozen in time, you couldn't die. However, I managed to recuperate and replenish my chakra reserves. I am therefore fully capable. I was able to easily heal the damage you had sustained when you broke free, and I'm currently working to stimulate your chakra to help it rejuvenate as well. However, it will take away. So basically we need to get out of this dimension, get some food, and you need proper rest before you try to do anything else. Alright, so you're saying let's ditch this Batwing guy and go get some food and sleep? You got it, partner. Lord, please forgive me, wherever your soul may rest. The alarm system that kept an eye on the barrier and sealing defenses surrounding 666 was blaring a very clear message. There had been 2 entries for the pocket dimension. The rock that 666 lived on had been destroyed, and the barrier had been rendered inoperative. Not long after, a Kuo exorcist claimed to have seen a being tear open a dimensional portal and fly into the air above the city. Michael knew full well that this was roughly where the Earths and the pocket dimension connected. Now one of the beasts of the apocalyptic world was at large. Michael could recall the talk he'd had that fateful day with his lord. While Azazel was organizing his group to launch a counteroffensive, the four Satans were forcing a hole in the angels' defense. Things were not looking good for them. God was obviously delayed by the unidentified energy signature that had been detected earlier, even though he should have arrived by now. He was near the back of their army, taking a moment to gather his forces for the battle. His lord finally materialized in front of him. Michael started attempting to assist him right away because he appeared to be very tired. However, God raised his arm and materialized a chair, which he sat down heavily in. Michael, did you sense the being I fought with? Despite its simplicity, Michael could tell the question was crucial. He gave a nod. Yes, sir. I was able to distinguish it from the mayhem around me thanks to its peculiar signature. All right, I want you to keep in mind what I said in case the worst happens today. The creature I met is simply too strong to be allowed to exist freely in the world. It appears that he engaged Great Red in combat in the void. He was seriously injured when he came to me. He attacked me before I could even recognize him. I retaliated for my sin. He was able to fight me almost equally despite his wounds. However, something I said startled him, so I was able to shut him out. Michael, he needs to stay sealed at all times. I worry that the real apocalypse would occur if he were to return to this world. The demise of humanity and the end of our planet. A creature as malevolent and formidable as he is far more dangerous than any fallen angel or devil. Michael bent down and took a knee. Lord, I hear what you've said. I hope and pray that the good guys win today and that this conversation was for nothing. Despite his best efforts that day, his lord had been killed in battle. With the help of the four great Satans, he destroyed the armies of the fallen angels and the devil. Nevertheless, he had fallen nonetheless. After that day, the war had reached an uneasy truce. And Michael was able to piece it together with the words of God from that day when later word spread of Great Red's duel in the gap. It had strengthened his resolve to seal that dimension shut for all time. But he had let his lord down again. He had no idea how it had happened, but the last command he had been given was broken. Michael left the room where the misplaced signal device was lying. With a quick snap of his fingers, the nearest angel materialized and teleported to him. Assemble the seraphs. Bring everyone together. There is an issue with us. Lord Azazel. Did you sense that energy, Lord Azazel? The city was suddenly hit by an odd pressure. Yes, I am fully aware of that. Go to the underworld for the time being and warn everyone. Pull everyone from their missions with a call. If not, stay put until I issue another command. His bodyguard gave a deep bow before taking off for their teleportation chamber. Azazel got to his feet and finished his beer. He approached his nearest and touched a unique panel on the wall. It revealed a secret chamber where his armor was on display on a rack. That energy signature was one he recognized. It had been the one to keep God from reaching the decisive fight. Today was a significant day. And he would really need this suit, it seemed. After all, 666 was meant to usher in the end of the world. Griffia, shit. Oh my god, I can't handle this. Hold on. More yes, and no. Sure, carry out the task once more. Honestly Sirzex, it is just a back rub. Graphia, please, it just feels so good. Graphia, who is regarded as the second strongest female devil and the strongest queen in the supernatural community, could only sigh at her husband's absurdity. Everyone's attention was drawn to the strong energy surge, and Sir Zax demanded a back rub from the noble Devil Council following a dull and pointless discussion. She was not sure why she tolerated it at times. Lord Lucifer. There is a message from your sister, Lady Rias. She asks that you hear it right away. Graphia grinned triumphantly at the interruption. If Rias was up to any serious business, Sirzex would soon lose all interest in playing around. Yes, he had gotten up quickly and was putting on his shirt. Enter and speak the message. One of the Lucifer household servants came in and bowed down to his master. He reached into his pocket and took out a piece of paper. Big brother. Right now, I need you or Graphia to come to Kuo. Earlier, a massive wave of energy shot across the sky. Then a figure emerged from the sky, tearing a hole in it and disappearing into the air above the city. Everyone around us was lying on the ground, suffocating from the pressure this figure was giving off just by being here. It was enough to take my breath away. This being, I have no idea where it went. However, I believe they have not left the city. Please come. I believe I need your assistance with this. End of the message, my lord. Graphia, assemble your peers and come to the circle with me. I'm heading directly to Kuo. When you're ready, I want everyone to follow me. After that, Sir Zacharias Lucifer, often regarded as the most powerful demon in the underworld, strode out of the room. Nothing would stop him from helping his younger sister if she needed it. Hey Kurama, do you really think those enormous metal things can carry people on their backs? Naruto pondered in his mind. They have to be able to procreate. What other way could they have climbed up there? Your chakra probably just knocked them out of the air or something. Naruto gave himself a nod. Perceiving the gesture, Kurama returned to his attempt to accelerate Naruto's chakra recovery. Naruto was walking down this town's sidewalk, his nose constantly on the lookout. The street was busy and it appeared to be midday. He had seen people strolling along the elevated side section and big metal vehicles traveling up and down the open roadway. Although his attire was a little odd, people seemed to ignore him. He could tell when someone was attempting to ignore him. But he didn't care, so he strolled around looking for some food with his hands behind his head. He was drawn to a scent he was quite familiar with, and the idea made him start drooling. Please just go eat it. When was the last time you actually had ramen, by the way? Yes, you are correct. I might as well have fun, Kurama thought. Naruto then made his way into a sidewalk stand. Only a few of the stools that surrounded a counter were still occupied. Before he could stop eating here, Naruto swiftly caught one. He was noticed by a girl behind the counter, who grinned. I will be with ya in a sec, dear. He studied the menu for a while. We speak the same language here, strangely enough. He observed idly. Kurama simply sighed in agreement. Alright dear, what will it be? 5 miso please. 5 miso, huh? You have a really humorous accent. From where are you? A somewhat distant location. Nobody is familiar with it. After acknowledging his response, the waiter went to tell the chef what to do. She brought him 2 steaming bowls a few minutes later. Hearing the others would follow soon, he dispatched them quickly. Oh wow, you finished these 2 already? Hey, I haven't had this good ramen in a long time. Grab those 3, and let the chef know how great he is. Grinning, the waiter walked back to retrieve another order. Hi, Mr. Takeda. A client requested that I say. What was that? You said something that I missed. Oh, yeah. I guess I forgot, but I'll fill the next order. As she turned to face the counter, she noticed 3 empty bowls and an empty seat to the left. It seems that she neglected to bring them to the rear. Naruto completed his 4th hand sign as he left, and his genjutsu toppled the customers inside the store. Nobody would recall him from that time, or from having 5 bowls of miso ramen. With a small grimace, he saw the word, hotel, on a sign and went inside. He approached the counter and silently read over the same series of signs. The staff member in line turned around and gave him a key to an unoccupied room. Then hoped he had a pleasant day. Naruto slapped himself awake once more after stumbling up the first flight of stairs. Dozing off on the stairs would not help this situation. He reached his 3rd floor room and opened the door. He quickly navigated through a second set of hand signals and then put his hands up to the door. Before the kanji for locked emerged carved into the wood, it flashed once. After turning, he fell onto the bed. For a moment, he regretted swindling these people out of their honest labor. However, this paled in comparison to his prior accomplishments. Work done by ninjas was never honest. Upon entering the room, Sirzek saw that the entire club was gathered in front of him. Even that stupid boy who was half vampire. When he opened his senses, he saw that the city was home to a startling number of influential people. However, no one had the same energy that he had experienced earlier, not even in the underworld. Hiya everyone. Signs of fallen angels, brother, strong angels, and other entities are appearing throughout the city. However, since they vanished, Kaneko here hasn't been able to sense that person's chakra. Are you aware of the situation? Wheel. I think my guesses are pretty accurate. But as of right now, I'm not positive. If it's the one I believe it to be, then a lot of trouble could be developing at the moment. As the group began to mingle, Rias informed her brother of everything they had seen. Seraphel Leviathan entered the club room with a sudden flash of light and strode around. At which point she hurriedly began giving her sister hugs. Amid Seraphel's tumultuous antics, she glanced at Sirzex and gave him a nod. They both had the same suspicions. The younger devils were therefore amazed at the assembly of so many strong devils when both of their peerages entered the room. Everyone, there is currently a fugitive in this city. There are other groups assembling, and at this moment, everyone is looking for this individual. Although there isn't much information available, it is thought to be 666, or Trihexa as some people may refer to it. One of the two apocalyptic beasts. The only information we have about this entity is that it is powerful enough to battle Great Red, and the biblical god was worn out after locking it away. Its form appears to be human. Like. Here, Kaneko stated that the being was using chakra. Go now and look for unusual chakra sources. Avoid fighting with people of different races. The two peers of Satan bowed low and dispersed throughout the city. The peers of Sona and Rias were still present in the room, and their confusion over the circumstances had only grown. Seraphel, if this being is really 666, what is about to happen? Sona posed a thoughtful question, and everyone paid attention. Well, 666 is thought to be just as powerful as the greatest being in history. Or almost. In the event that a conflict arises over it, this city will probably be destroyed. And following that? Who knows? If he tried, Great Red could probably wipe out the entire devil race. Thus, anything was possible for a being with equal power. The group was in awe. Was the person who prevented those planes from going down really that strong? Beyond Naruto's logic. Are you absolutely certain? Archangel Michael pivoted to confront Azazel, the governor. General of the fallen angels. With a cheeky smile, he answered. Yes, Michael. I went and got my chakra detector when Sir Zax told me to search for chakras here. Which detected this increasing power right away. There is a chakra source in this room that is so large it almost seems endless, and it is still expanding. In that case, wherever 666 is. Most likely, it is in this room. The faces of the other seraphs hardened around him. The two Satans got ready, and the fallen angels who accompanied him began to flap their wings. In order to meet 666 before any other faction could attempt to persuade it to support them, the three factions were getting ready to cooperate. Indeed, a significant event is said to transpire today. Azazel smirked as he considered. Happily, Naruto was fast asleep. He had been awake for a week before being sealed away. Furthermore, a restful night's sleep was not correlated with being stuck in time. Thus, he had fainted as soon as he had fallen asleep. His dreams drifted while he slept. As the Hokage, he visited a land of ramen and saved Konoha. But right now he was thinking back to his last battle. He had ripped open a portal and dove through just as that big-ass lizard was about to hit him in the face. His head had struck something sharply before he could even regain his sense of direction. Gotta be the worst way to come out of one of those. He had complained. Then he rubbed his scalp and looked up to see what he had struck. A large, radiant elderly man was in front of him. Curiously, he was rubbing his head while his face was fixed in a murderous glare. Boy! How dare you! I shall smite you for the sin you have committed. The gargantuan man had bellowed. Naruto had a perplexed expression. Sin? The fuck you talking about? All I did was smash heads with. Do you think you were old man? The man's left fist had struck out. In order to avoid, Naruto jerked his head to the side. This seemed to infuriate the man, who then began to rain blows on his opponent. Naruto started to zip around, squeezing past every blow as it came. God, quickly weary, had called forth an enormous amount of magic instead. Then he let loose a terrifying blast with it. Naruto was blown to the ground after getting caught in the explosion's edge. I have you now. Then he unleashed a barrage of fast moving magical attacks. Above his fallen opponent, a massive cloud of dust hung in the atmosphere. That is, until God turned and saw the sneer on his enemy's face. Fuck you and your beard, old man. I didn't do anything. Stop attacking me. If you don't stop right now, I will be forced to kill you. Huh? You kill me? Do not jest with me, fool, for I am God. Kneel before me. Naruto was not prepared for the sudden change in intent behind those words. The man had not lied. No, the god had not before him. God had no more time to waste because he knew his side was suffering on the battlefield. He caught his opponent with a binding god-class seal that he threw. Suddenly, Naruto was constrained. His arms ached a little more, and his chakra felt a little heavier. It was then that his wounds became more visible to him. Then another seal appeared and hit him. And a pair that match after that. However, Naruto sidestepped the approaching duo and observed the shocked god's face. You can still move? You bet I can. I am future Hokage Naruto U. AHCK. God had fired a few more seals while Naruto was still speaking. He could already feel the effects of his first two fading. These two new seals further limited Naruto, who then tried to overcome them by channeling his meager chakra. Then, with both arms, God raised a massive chunk of earth and gestured it in the direction of the struggling man. The earth came together into a perfect diamond shape as he slammed his hands together. He lunged forward, slapping god-tier seals all over the rock, left and right. Naruto began to struggle because he could sense the god was attempting to imprison him inside this rock. Naruto appeared to have been in the middle of sealing when the crack appeared, allowing him to break free with his chakra and flee the rock. Just as his dream was about to end, he abruptly snapped out of it. Although Rias knew she shouldn't be doing this, she felt compelled to investigate. Her innate curiosity urged her to do so. In addition, 666 was incredibly strong and seemed to have a bad disposition. It might become a peer of hers. She knew it would not have been possible a week ago. There's just too big of a power gap between her and 666. But in appreciation for her success in ridding herself of Riser, her brother had given her a very special mutation piece. But what if brother gave me this piece knowing that this would happen and allowed me to recruit 666? I thought to myself. Yes, sir, if you're cunning like that. Well, if that's the case, I'll make sure to pay him back. Hee hee hee. Rias was elbowed in the gut by Akeno. The girl turned to look gratefully at her queen. Akeno knew when to stop her whenever she burst into that kind of dark laughter. However, at that moment, she and her peerage were concealed in an empty street behind multiple cars. It was almost midnight when it appeared that the three factions' combined group had discovered 666. It was thought to be residing in a room in this hotel. Maybe attempting to restore some of its power after escaping God's seals. Prez. Prez. Are you sure this is a smart idea? Once more, there was Issei. What a devoted young man. For her, he would stop at nothing. Particularly when she assured him of a brief kiss or a few moments of feeling her up. Her pawn was encircling her finger. However, at times, he was quite naive and irritating. Well, it was kind of adorable. Yes, Issei. Even if something goes wrong, Sirzex will keep us safe. Don't worry. In fact, be happy, you are probably going to have a new peerage member to get to know soon. Hee hee, yes, hopefully you will. Hee hee hee. Moving her foot forward, Akeno applied pressure to Rias's toes. From the more naive members of her peerage, the girl was able to mask her dark laughter with a cough. Issei's worries about her health soon surfaced. Whoom. A tiny shockwave reverberated throughout the deserted road. Things were just getting going. She sensed her brother and the others entering the room, but not very strongly. They'd blown the door off its hinges, obviously going for awe and shock value. They have to be facing 666 at the moment. The street fell silent again. This block was surrounded by a barrier that kept people out and made those inside fall asleep, so that this confrontation wouldn't be disrupted. But nothing seemed to be changing, and the silence grew. However, the intense pressure they had been experiencing earlier abruptly left the building. Asia, Kiba, Kaneko, and Issei were instantly taken aback. To steady herself, Akeno changed into her priestess attire. To help herself, Rias was directing her magic into her legs. Oh dear, what an immense energy. Akano giggled after giving her lips a seductive lip lick. However, Rias disregarded both her and her struggling peers. She had trained her senses to focus on the hotel's expanding powers. 4 enormous holy energies were clearly palpable to her. The seraphs would not back down. The air also carried the faintly spoiled holy energy of a fallen angel. Then 2 more energy explosions ignited. Seraphel and her brother were not playing around. As the hotel across the street burst into flame, colored timbers, Rias found herself on her ass on the concrete, staring wide-eyed at the enormous collection of auras. 10 figures could be seen ascending into the sky and passing through the smoke. There was crimson, and she knew that was her brother. When Naruto heard his door blown from its frame, he became agitated and jumped to his ceiling. Chakra bonded with him, and with a swift motion, his right hand grabbed a kunai from his pouch. He then turned to look at what had transpired. His room was now occupied by 9 people. They were all over the board, and he could sense their intent. A few looked interested, and a few others appeared eager. The others were hoping for a brawl. They were surprisingly free of hate and full of rage. He had no idea that one of the seraphs was on the verge of succumbing to his hate. The seraphs believed that God's death was primarily due to Naruto. The devils who had delivered the final blow were already dead. However, Naruto was the reason the blow was possible. And long forgotten emotional wounds were being peeled open by their anger at the loss of their lord. Michael knew his friends weren't interested in conversing. Nevertheless, the group would start by talking. Even though his natural adversary was 666. The 3 faction leaders hesitated when they noticed a young, blonde man who was upside down and stuck to his room's ceiling. Although appearances could be deceiving, this individual did not resemble any of their imagined 666. Could this man truly match Great Red's strength? Oi, the fuck are you guys doing? I was trying to sleep, ya know. And look at the door. I hope you know you are paying for that. The gathered group let out a sweat and looked over 666 for a moment. Pulling out a second kunai, Naruto palmed one with each hand. He fell from the ceiling, holding the kunai against his wrist in a reverse grip so they were hidden from view. 666, how is it that you broke free of God's seal? Michael had taken the lead and was attempting to maintain a constructive dialogue. There was a lot of tension in the room. Why does everyone keep calling me 666? My name is Naruto Uzumaki. As for that rock I was in? Some guy with 12 bat wings broke me out. I didn't stick around to hear what he was trying to tell me. I had better things to do. Everyone in the group turned to look at the 2 devils in the group when he gave an unexpected response. Sears X raised his hands in a conciliatory motion. Ah, don't look at us. No devil was sanctioned to do this. I didn't even know where Naruto was. One of the other seraphs, Raphael, moved forward. Enough, 666, you are directly responsible for the death of our lord. And now you have sided with the devils to escape your righteous imprisonment. For these sins I shall absolve you from this world. A golden suit of armor encased his body as 12 white wings emerged from his back. He conjured up a massive golden sphere, which he hurled towards Naruto. No Raphael. However, it was already too late. The top of the hotel was blown off when the room exploded. The people inside the room rose up into the sky through the smoke. Hovering away from the group, Raphael directed his intense gaze downward into the smoke. In the dim light of the moon, Raphael could hardly make out a dull gray kunai that emerged from the smoke. He raised a light shield, deflecting the weapon that was thrown. However, he failed to notice the second kunai that was concealed by the first. It caught his left thigh and knocked him backward. Opposite the group, in a swirl of leaves in the sky, was Naruto. His chakra reserves from eating and sleeping were only about half full. He then began to channel his chakra, and a massive, flaming aura of blue light appeared all around him. To boost his voice, he used a tiny bit of Kurama's chakra. I don't know who you are or why you insist on attacking me for doing nothing. But if you continue attacking me I will kill you. I will not give you a third chance. Shit, even his voice is full of power. Raphael, you fool, what have you done? Silence, Azazel, I will not hear your words against my subordinate. I will handle Raphael later. Right now we need to deal with the matter at hand. Raphael tore the intruding knife out of his thigh and was glaring angrily at Naruto while Azazel and Michael argued. 666, how dare you strike one of the Lord's servants? I am the Seraph Raphael, kneel before me and beg forgiveness and perhaps your soul shall be saved. Raphael, enough foolishness. Stand down now. Naruto had allowed his chakra to stabilize while they were conversing, but he kept it ready to go at any time. There are no logs in this area, sh*t. I have nothing to take my place. Okay, so even though the log can't shield me from the sky, I will always be appreciative of your safety. He was surveying the area, but nothing was nearby at this altitude due to the short buildings. Naruto, was it? Do you even know what's going on here? He was being spoken to by a man with bat wings and red hair. Yeah, it's Naruto, I told y'all already. And as far as I can tell, that dude over there thinks I got his leader killed and I have to let him kick my ass for it. Raphael was staring at Michael as he flew through the night sky, his halo and 12 golden wings gleaming brightly. He was holding the younger Seraph's wrist with his arm while gazing intently into Raphael's eyes. What are you doing? Forget your vengeance for a moment. This is the being who our Lord exhausted himself just to seal away. You stand no chance. Do not bring his wrath upon this city. With his other hand, Michael then extended and gave Raphael a forceful slap across the face. Besides, you fool, in your haste to act you may have killed innocent people inside that hotel. With a pale face, Raphael pulled out his shield and dove toward the burning hotel. Naruto dove into the smoke, watching his opponent closely. Oi, golden wings. Where is that guy going? I thought for sure he wanted to face his death. Michael smiled benignantly, hiding his anger at the slight. Naruto, you said it was, my friend Raphael was just confused. In his haste he has done you and others a great wrong. He is currently trying to ensure his mistake has no more permanent consequences. Now may we please cease discussing death? I wish to know if you could describe the devil who released you. Naruto kept looking from Sirzex, who was still nearby, to Michael, who was flying closer, and Raphael's billowing cloud of smoke. He had his right hand dangling next to his gear pouch. Yeah, I guess I could. The guy had 12 bat-like wings. He said his name was Rizam Leva or something like that. Hey, no closer, yeah, you bat wings. Sirzex laughed, grinning, and sank back down again. Though he was aware of the person Naruto was referring to, he did not believe Michael was aware of it. Rizam had no interest in fighting in the Devil Civil War, even between the three factions. What, then, about Naruto's release had piqued his interest? Naruto, I see that you are just flying without wings, if I may, are you a god? For you seem very similar to a human. Naruto gave a snort. Me a god? I have fought gods before, so I suppose I am similar to them. However, I have never been called one before. But do not think to classify me by your system. In fact, why are you all even here? Well, you were supposed to be the beast of the apocalypse and now you have broken free to bring hellfire upon the living or something like that. You know, an evil wrath-filled monster of destruction. We are here to stop you. Sorry to disappoint, but I think you got the wrong guy. I am fresh out of rampaging impulses. I am just a guy trying to get a good night's sleep. So do not follow me. After disappearing into a body flicker, Naruto leapt from the sky and landed on a different street a few blocks distant. Flying up to the other two leaders, Azazel spoke. Well, that was pretty loud and clear. He is just a guy trying to sleep. I don't think it would be wise disturbing his rest. I suggest we all call it an evening as well. Perhaps you could deal with Raphael so he doesn't accidentally go and start a fight with Great Red either. Good night, gentlemen. Among her peers, Rias was the only one who was awake. She was knocked from her seated position when 666's aura intensified. The blow had left her head ringing, and the aura's pressure was choking her. Luckily, it had not lasted long, and she was breathing heavily in the slightly less tense air. Thank the devil, I'm not getting any closer. Why was the angel attempting to oppose this entity? She was able to identify a light-based explosion, and it was evident that the hotel had been destroyed by an angel. Not to mention that an angel using his light magic was the only one using magic in the sky above. In the moonlight, she could just make out his pale halo. Then she saw 666 for the first time. He appeared to be a young man who was a few years her senior. His hair was blonde and spiky. In this light, she was unable to distinguish his other features from a distance. She saw Archangel Michael intervene after the angel appeared to be having a disagreement with 666. Abruptly, the angel engaged in combat with 666 plunged back into the haze. She noticed that things were becoming more relaxed. To relieve some of the tension, the powers overhead were a little less. They are obviously still tense though. As 666 was speaking with her brother and Michael, he suddenly vanished. A few leaves were carried by the wind and whirled around his vacant spot. With a shake of her peerage's head, Rias beckoned them to follow her. Since he was still holding his chakra down, Kaneko was still able to sense 666. He was barely a few blocks away. It was unfortunate that Rias missed the memo telling him to leave Naruto alone that evening. However, none of the other groups that had been watching the altercation did either. Naruto planted his feet firmly on the pavement. Looking around, he saw nobody. He walked down the street with his hands behind his head. He was aware of the late hour. It was most likely after midnight if the moon here was a clock like the one back home. What transpired over there? He pondered in his mind. He had barely gotten out of bed when a gang of burly men kicked in his door. That one guy had just attacked him rashly, even though they appeared to want to talk to him. After that, he showed no sign of wanting to talk. He was now ambling along the road in search of a new crash spot. The group's energy signatures continued to appear to be concentrated in the sky as he tracked them. However, the group split up after going a few more blocks, and the majority appeared to depart from the city. Good riddance. Those rude bastards thankfully aren't persistent. He cursed under his breath. Oh, what the hell is this? The last thing he wanted to do was deal with anyone else. However, a group of teenagers were standing in the intersection in front of him. Oi, the fuck you guys want, huh? The others maintained their neutral expressions while the red-haired girl gave him an enigmatic smile. Almost all of them, anyway. To Naruto's question, a slender man with disheveled brown hair stepped forward. Hey. Don't talk like that to the prez. Issei, please let me handle this matter and don't interrupt again. Okay? The boy was whipped into silence, and Naruto laughed. Naruto laughed harder when Issei gave him a scowl. However, he abruptly stopped when the girl with the red hair moved forward. Hello there 666. My name is Ria. Oh come on. Enough with this 666 bullshit. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Next person to call me 666 is getting their nose broken. Rias appeared taken aback at being called out. But she was smiling sweetly again in no time. Oh, I apologize, Naruto. The only name I knew to call you by was 666. My mistake. Ook, yeah, so what do you want? Do you wanna fight? 'Cause I will kick all your guys' asses. No sweat if you don't leave me alone. Or I can just walk away right now. Either way I am about to leave. Rias did not stop grinning. We do not wish to fight you. I have a proposition for you, Naruto. You see, I witnessed your fight with that angel. I know he woke you up. So I was here to offer you a place to stay for the evening. No one would disturb you while you were at my residence. So some random girl and her friends just walk up to me on the street in the middle of the night and ask me to sleep at their house? Yeah, sorry girl, but no thanks. Go seduce someone else. Naruto turned left and started to move away from the crossroads. Channeling some chakra, he got ready in case the group attempted to attack him. With a disappearing smile, Rias turned away from her. Her peers came forward to support her. Prez, I will bring that guy back here right now if you want. He didn't look that tough. Rias chuckled a little. No, I don't think we will bother him again tonight, Issei. Besides, our offer did come across as rather suspicious, didn't it? A girl in the shadows observed the devil peerage make plans to get together the following day before going their separate ways. I guess that's one more offer he has turned down, NYA. Let's see him turn me down. After entering the street, a girl started to follow Naruto. Her lips pursed in a seductive smile, a mischievous gleam lighting up her eyes. Naruto was relieved that the group had left. All he really wanted to do was go back to sleep. The alleys appeared to be getting more cozy if he couldn't find a hotel quickly. But once more, he sensed a fresh presence at his back. Very close to his heels. Naruto leapt forward, palming a kunai as he landed in a crouch, his hand flitting inside his pouch. In front of him was a woman who appeared to be in her early 20s. Her face conveyed that she knew he could see the ample amount of skin on her outfit. "Oh, hello there. That is a funny-looking knife you have. I certainly hope you don't use it on me, NYA. NYA? The hell?" The girl's face was gaunt. She snapped out of it and shot him an odd glance. "NYA, you know, like a cat? NYA, NYA. What sort of cat says NYA? This dimension is different, what a strange thing. Why don't cats meow here, Kurama? What sort of question is that, you idiot? How should I know?" The woman was staring at him as if he were a moron. "Every cat says NYA. It is what cats say. Have you never seen a cat before of something?" This was beginning to become one of Naruto's strangest nights, he sighed. He doubted anything could surpass his most bizarre experience, but it wouldn't come close. "Look, enough about cats. Why are you here? If you have nothing else to say, then just leave me alone." She took a step forward and pressed her bare breasts together. "Your name is Naruto, right? Well, I guess you could say I am just a stray cat looking for a new home, NYA. Will you take me in? Please see, NYA." He gave her a deadpan look. "Sorry, I am more of a fox person. Later." With a flicker, he vanished, leaving Kuroka alone with a whirl of leaves. She pouted and decided that now was not the time to pursue him further. Already, the majority of the other factions had irritated him. On top of one of the area's taller buildings, Naruto made a reappearance. "Fuck it, I am sleeping here." He directed chakra into a scroll that poofed into his hand and a tiny seal that hung on his hip. When he opened the scroll, his sleeping roll materialized. He had just fallen onto his side with his eyes half closed when someone else made the decision to go look for him. "Oh, I fucking swear you could be offering me free ramen to join your group right now and I would not care, so just fuck off." He turned to see who it was this time as he yelled the final portion. In front of him was a young girl with long black hair wearing an odd-made outfit of black and purple. He yelled in her face, but she didn't seem to be bothered by it. Her expression was blank. Naruto gave her a fierce look. He didn't really care that it might have been his mother. He was ready to go to bed. She spoke, giving a small smile. "It is good to see you, Naruto. I do not believe we have ever spoken before. However, I watched when you fought with Great Red 300 years ago. I must say I was very impressed. You seemed rather tired at that time as well. I apologize for waking you. TCH, you were that other person inside that big dragon's dimension? Well, whoop. Duh. Do. Go back there." She did not stop grinning. "You are a rude person, are you not, Naruto?" "Yes, I think you are. However, that is not why I am here. I want to know if you plan to fight Great Red again." With a sigh, Naruto whispered something to himself. "If he won't let me through again, then I guess I will not have a choice this time either." "That's your answer, now leave." Grateful for his ramen, she merely nodded before heading out. It was time to go to bed. The various factions and groups held councils throughout Kuo. Everybody had attempted to talk to Naruto, but he rejected their attempts. He did not look like some demonic, evil creature that was going to bring about the end of the world. However, it appeared that you should avoid crossing him. Something Raphael had made hastily. If his hasty decision had consequences, only time would tell. Everyone was still keen to get him on board, at least temporarily. With his power, one faction could easily become the strongest possible. They believed that a significant shift was approaching. Everything could and would change due to Naruto's actions. The majority of them hoped he would not start a war. Most people found it difficult to sleep that night due to the general anxiety. When Ophis had left, Naruto had fallen asleep right away. Rias was thinking back on her interaction with the man. He had cut her off without giving her a chance to introduce herself. They had almost got into a brawl. After being attacked, it was understandable that he would be cautious. Naruto Uzumaki. What a strange name. Why would a biblical figure have a Japanese name, even though it sounds kind of Japanese? He had declined her offer just as quickly. This made sense as well. Their timing had been off. And a little unsettling. She stopped perspiring. I should probably try taking a more direct approach. Yes, I will seek him out tomorrow and invite him to become a member of my peerage. Hee, ahem. Yes, I suppose it is time to sleep. After her hair was completely dry, she slipped under her silky sheets. She gave a big, cuddly hug and kept planning until she was out. What the hell? The sound of something thudding against the air above woke up a drowsy Naruto. He was standing on the black flat top roof with the sun directly overhead. A helicopter hovered above him. The helicopter was getting closer to Naruto, deafening his enhanced hearing. The faint sound of someone speaking reached his ears. Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us on Bums of Kuo today. We have a rare find for you today. This homeless man in the eastern part of the city has managed to find a place to sleep atop this building. Whoa. It appears that we have roused this jerk. Let's enlarge to see his response up close. Naruto gazed at the massive metallic vehicle, which appeared to be hovering in midair, with its large blades rotating around it to maintain its airborne position. It's the most inventive place I've ever seen, but why does it keep waking me up? Who the hell is saying what, and wait? A bum? I'm up there, oi. I'm not a jerk, you hear me? I'm not a jerk. Ignore these people. I'm leaving this place. The myth of the magical Kuo bum was born when he swiftly rolled his bed up and, in a puff of smoke, sealed it back into the scroll. While still covered in smoke, he sealed it into his wrist and body, flickering off the roof too quickly for the camera to follow. Naruto walked out of the alley he was in, complaining that he had woken up, and onto the street. It was chow time, and he could smell something delicious. Chasing the scent to a nearby store, he hoped to have a meal without interruption, but he could also sense the different people from yesterday out and about in the city. And oh, that group with the red-haired girl is coming. Why doesn't anyone here notice hints, for the life of the log? With a sigh, he made his way to the counter, placed his order, quickly put his illusion to use, and picked up his bag of breakfast sandwiches. If the girl who offered me a place to stay thinks I'm just some weird charity case, she's got another thing coming. I definitely don't want her to witness me scamming her way to free food. And there they were. She and her party had just strolled straight into the narrative. The two boys and the girl with the blonde hair went to place their orders at the counter, and the redhead, the tall girl with the long black ponytail, and the third shorter girl with the shoulder length white hair came up to where he was sitting. Naruto, good morning. Have you had a good night's sleep? She did not seem to be bothered, so she continued. He disregarded her and took the last bite of his first sandwich. Please allow me to introduce myself. Yesterday, I was unable to say my name. I am the Gremory clan's heiress and aristocratic devil Rias Gremory. Here, my peers are my friends. I had hoped that last night, when I made you an offer, we could have gotten to know one another. However, I now believe you to be the kind of person who prefers the direct approach. Will you join? What is a peerage? Naruto cut her off in mid-sentence. For a moment, she was perplexed. She later discovered, though, that Naruto had been sealed even before the evil peace system was developed. A peerage is a group of people who have been reincarnated by a high-class devil and become their servants. The process turns you into a devil and binds you to me. However, I do not like to think of my peerage as servants, we are friends here. You may even see us as a family after a time. As he finished his third sandwich, she noticed him nod understandingly. As I was saying before you asked me your question. Will you join my peerage? Naruto noticed that she had a very warm smile on her face. The two girls beside her likewise had a giddy smile on their faces. The shorter girl appeared to be having a lot of difficulty with her attempt. As the blonde girl spoke to the boy with brown hair behind the counter, he noticed that she was smiling. HMPH, you should have switched this short girl for the blonde. Your smile tactic doesn't work well with her. But the blonde, well damn, that's a nice smile. I like yours too, ponytail. But look here, Red, I can see your smile is forced too. You need more work on it. Oh dear, Prez, he seems to be onto us. The girl with ponytails laughed heartily. The three at the counter approached before anyone else spoke. Look, Prez. I got you a sandwich. Here, eat up and enjoy. Oh well, thank you, Issei. Naruto looked on as the group chatted, enjoying his fifth and last sandwich. His favorite was the last item he had saved, but there was no way he should have eaten it first. The atmosphere now would diminish his pleasure. Rias peered curiously at Naruto's sandwich, seeing him fixated on it. Upon further reflection, I realize how strange everything must be for him. Since he has been sealed for the past 300 years, a great deal has changed in the world. I'm curious how he is handling everything. He never responded to me. Wait. Naruto, I don't mean to be pushy, but I am going to ask again. Will you join my peerage? Look, Red, I will say this once, fuck off and leave me alone. I want nothing to do with anyone in this dimension. I hope to never meet any of you again, bye. He shoved his sandwich in, flicking his body briefly outside the building, half of it hanging out of his mouth. Then, glancing around at the surprised onlookers, he launched himself into a longer range jump, stopping midway through the city. You should probably head outside the city to prepare, kid. The more time we spend here, the more people will come our way. For what felt like the 100th time since his release, Naruto let out a sigh. Kurama is someone I know. Time to leave this place, please. On everyone's face was shock. It had never happened to Rias before. Granted, she had always carefully planned the arrival of each of her other members. However, she lacked the time and means to educate herself about Naruto. It was a serious blow to her pride that he rejected her with such rudeness. That mutation piece was given to me by brother. I'm sure he knew that Naruto would be released. Why, when he knows I need a stronger piece? Why didn't Naruto simply sign up? Hey, guys, joining my peerage is a good thing, right? People would want to join, right? This guy just has some issue, right? Akeno turned to face Rias. From a mile away, she had seen this coming. She knew Rias would start searching for some kind of magical destiny. Powered event to transpire when he told her about the mutation piece so she could use it to acquire a formidable new member. Really, Rias had no idea how she'd managed to get all of them. Issei was the only person she had actually done anything like labor to obtain. And she had put it off until after his death. Oh no, this had to happen sooner or later. Thankfully, it wasn't with someone we actually stood a chance of winning over. The other group members were comforting Rias and telling her how much they had enjoyed being a part of it. Akeno simply sighed in silence. Unfortunately, Naruto's immense strength had been a huge turn-on. What do you mean you don't know where she is? A pawn of Searsex's yelled at him. He had given his peerage the duty of watching over his sister last night. However, it seems that she had abandoned them this morning, and he could smell her presence downtown. She shouldn't be in there. There is too much going on in the city right now. Return here with her after obtaining a few others. Lord Searsex, just unwind. Nobody would consider attacking Rias. They all know that you and Lady Leviathan are currently in the city. Glancing at Graphia, Searsex realized she was correct. However, his adorable younger sister might run into Naruto. Although he didn't appear antagonistic, you never know what he might do. Naruto probably didn't give a damn about what people thought of what he did. Additionally, it's likely that he was unaware of any possible consequences. Searsek paced a bit. He was eager for the others to show up. Later that day, the four great Satans would assemble to ask Naruto to join them. All he could hope for was that they would manage to finish it without being stopped or outwitted. All the other factions had already gathered together. But in light of Raphael's actions last night, the angels had little to no chance. Azazel also acted slowly all the time. Clearly, there was still hope for them. The tracker says that Lord Azazel is outside the city. I would assume that the forest is to the north. Well, okay. Gentlemen, let's go in that direction. With a flap of his wings, Azazel and his two allies soared northward. They swiftly moved out of the city's airspace and into the forest, following the highway. A few miles in, a river twisted down from the surrounding mountains to cross the highway. They took a left at this intersection and headed upstream along the river. We are getting closer. I think I see him. See that blonde speck atop the waterfall? Ah yes, good eyes lord. They could see what Naruto was doing as they got closer. It was him. Are you meditating? Everyone was curious. They landed close to him on the protrusion of rock. Hi there, Naruto. I believe that the conditions for our meeting today are better. I hope your sleep was restful. Naruto ignored him and went back to his meditation. Azazel turned to face the animals, who were all gathered together. There was a calm, serene feeling in the air. It was truly amazing because forests on Earth were usually gloomy and evocative of evil, due to the malevolent natural energy that permeated the entire planet. Azazel spoke again, and this time he received a response. With a furrowed brow, Naruto snapped once with his right finger. Abruptly, a clone of himself was knelt down beside him. The copy's head twisted into a scowl in their direction. Yes? Could I be of assistance to you? Since the boss is currently rather busy, leave if you have nothing of importance to him. Azazel was genuinely intrigued by the method. Was it a trick of the light, a splinter, or something else entirely? He didn't think he would learn. It appears that business is resumed. Yes, exactly. I wanted to know if you would think about coming to my group. We can assist you with anything you need because we are very resourceful. Naruto, you're a strong player, and everyone wants to have you. I present to you a viewpoint that is less unsettling than the devil's, but more grounded than what the angels preach. You would have to engage in a lot of fighting because the Ukai faction is so divided and preoccupied with fighting among themselves, while my faction is stronger or on par with any other pantheon that exists. We, the Grigori, or fallen angels as some like to refer to us, humbly ask for your friendship. The copy kept a straight face while he spoke, then alternated between the original body and Azazel. With a chuckle, he said, "Yes, without a doubt. You certainly have a wide vocabulary. Definitely better than that girl could. I don't really care, though. Regardless of whether you believe you are more powerful than these pantheons. To me, that is meaningless. You were present when that guy attacked me last night, right? He gave off the impression of belonging to a powerful faction. I had no trouble with him at all. For all I care, you guys might be the most powerful faction. When I told you not to follow me last night, I thought I was being pretty clear. It's highly unlikely that the three of you simply happened to fly by today. Allow me to caution you now. Give me some space. You're not going to get another chance." As the duplicate initiated its chakra channeling, Azazel noticed a slight surge of blue energy. His friends joined him in the air as he took off. He made a conciliatory gesture with his hands. "We're not attempting to fight you, no, no, no. If this is how you feel, I will make an effort to persuade people to give you some space, but I doubt I will be very successful. Hello and happy day. Maybe I should try meditation myself. The natural energy of this planet is causing more problems than it is worth. I'll just lend a hand to the boss. We can leave here and avoid being petitioned again the sooner we finish this." The clone sat down opposite the boss and talked to itself. After that, it closed its eyes and started to absorb the surrounding natural energy. Although the hate-filled energy was powerful, Naruto knew how to deal with this kind of situation. He was going to use every resource at his disposal to defeat that enormous reptile this time. There would be no stopping him now. It is not his home in this dimension. He bore no accountability for it. This inherent energy really ain't worth it. I'm getting really irritated over it now. Naruto tramped all over the waterfall where he had been practicing meditation. In order to enter Sage mode and advance to the next level if needed, he was attempting to gather some natural energy. But it felt like an upstream swim. The amount of focus needed to filter out the hate, try to combine it with the Sage chakra, store it, and then repeat the process was wearing on. His stomach was growling and the sun was pleading to set. He hadn't eaten lunch because he thought he would be having dinner at home. But now his body was alerting him to how foolish the decision had been. Luckily, nobody else had come up to him during the day. Maybe as Guy had warned them off after all. He gave a headshake. Uncertain. I'll just leave this clone here for the night so it can continue to create sage chakra. The next day, I'll try to leave with what it has. It's time to head to the food. He leapt to the top of a nearby tree, abandoning the clone he had created earlier. The city gleamed in the waning light. With multiple long jumps, he flickered towards the city as the buildings glowed with electricity. Naruto stopped in front of a big building facing the heart of the city. He was able to feel the different individuals using this dimension form of energy throughout the city. It felt very different from the strong, dense chakra that everyone used back home, and much more fluid. Come on, please. These days, there must be almost twice as many of them. If they break up this meal, I swear. He leapt from the structure and landed softly on the pavement, his chakra absorbing the force of impact. After giving him a quick glance, a businessman concluded that exploring this street magic was not something he should be wasting his time on. He turned right and headed west after sensing the majority of the power signatures on the town's east side. In this direction, there were just two. Presumably some other lone wolf and the weird girl who mispronounced cat speak. He eagerly walked over to the small special of the day shop on the next corner. He took several courses and filled himself up inside. Indeed, he was on the verge of tears. There was nobody approaching him. A meal consumed without interruption. He sincerely hoped that his good fortune would continue. Oh my. Yes, that was exactly right. Congrats, I suppose, to the chef. Illusion. Concealed invisible form. He went up to refill his drink after resolving the payment issue, then he sat down to consider what had transpired since he was unsealed. Finding out that 300 years had passed him by so quickly had seemed incredibly surreal. Everything was so unusual and unique. He could follow the action fairly well, but he just wanted to be done with this dimension. He was dealing with his own issues. Presuming he would have to deal with them when he returned home. It could be an absurd wish. But I have to go back home. You are such a stubborn child, hee. Most likely, everything back home has changed as well. It's not like we came here on our own volition. We still have work to do. Enough, Kurama. I am aware of the odds. But since I can't get in touch with the toads here, I'll have to return myself to find out. Naruto gave the door a quick glance. A familiar face had just walked in. She stalked towards him, acting as though he hadn't noticed her. She leapt over him and went over to where he was seated. She struck the table hard, and when she raised her head, Naruto's hand prevented her from falling off. He had taken a seat on the other side of the table from where he had been sitting. He was staring at her, bored, his chin resting in his other hand. Girl from NYA. What are you doing, in your opinion? Come? Putting on her lips, she took a seat across from him. Although they tried their best not to be caught staring, the shoppers surrounding the store gave her strange glances. She looked at Naruto pleadingly as she rested her large bust on her arms on the table. Naruto. That was cruel. Why did you avoid? She finally gave in to his, "Are you serious?" look as he just stared at her. All right, so now that you have some free time, I'm not exactly sure what you intend to do. However, I recently became unrestricted by contract. What say you, then? You and I against the entire world? We could conquer anything with your strength and my beauty. He sighed. For the first time since he'd met her, her voice was finally serious. Among all the serious recruiters he had been interacting with, her lighthearted demeanor had been a breath of fresh air. Thank you, but no. I'm going to take a break now. Don't follow me, please. I will be more successful in my attempts to get rid of you if you keep insisting. He got up and moved in the direction of the door. He saw the moon rising over the city as he stepped outside into the street. I stayed inside longer than I had anticipated. Does she follow? Leaping to his feet, he fastened himself to the side of the sizable structure next door. A rumble of thunder split the night air as 3 lightning bolts struck the street. Suddenly, Naruto's senses registered 3 powerful energy signatures, and he cautiously observed the street. On the street were 3 enormous individuals. He was reminded of the guy who had sealed him by their appearance. Don't tell me that these men are deities. They flanked him from behind, with one figure standing ahead of the others. The three had skin that glowed slightly in the darkness, and they were twice as big as an average person. Waves of power were erupting from them. They were obviously trying to do business. Naruto glanced at them but remained where he was. Hi, how may I assist you all? Or can I just go now that this is a fortunate coincidence? Oh well. Groom's silver beard adorned the figure facing forward. He had a big circular medallion pinning his plain white toga on. He moved forward and said something. Are you the person going by Naruto? Formerly believed to be the beast from the Book of Revelation chapter 666? I am Naruto Uzumaki. With that, he descended from the building and stood a few feet apart from the three of them. On his left, the glowing blue-haired figure who appeared to be made of writhing flames advanced. Against the hardy golden color of the first figure, his skin was a ghostly white. As he spoke, his gaunt face strained tautly. We know he's the one we're looking for, so come on, brother. Don't take your time speaking. Naruto has made it apparent that he does not like to mince words. And the third figure moved forward, too. His skin had a blue hue, and an odd frill ran down the back of his bald head. He had a beard flecked with salt and pepper. It had green seaweed hanging from it, but Naruto decided to ignore it. Hades, Zeus, let's get back to business. Avoid arguing with each other. The well-groomed man in the front cleared his throat and nodded. Yes, Poseidon, indeed. We are the three brothers of the ancient Greek pantheon now, Naruto. We are the elder gods, and we come to ask for your assistance. Recently, one of our former allies has started attempting to sour our friendship. We think they're going to instigate hostilities between us. We are almost equals in every way, and the consequences of our disagreements endanger the equilibrium of numerous aspects of life. We are asking for your help to resolve this mess. Or at the absolute least, take our side and put an end to this before any major conflicts arise. What say you? Will you help us? Naruto fixed his gaze on the trio. That was his bad luck for today. Why is it that no one in this dimension can figure out their own shit? I can't say that I'm interested, though. As you can see, I am extremely busy and do not have the time to visit people and help them with their problems. So why not just zap back up into the sky and enjoy your evening? The large figure in the center spat and got red in the face. Young. Don't put me to the test. I inquired of you, knee. The irate one was silenced by the frill. Headed one by grabbing him. We can't make him fight for us, brother. Permit me. Hee. We really aren't asking for much from you, Naruto. We are prepared to generously compensate you for your hard work. Do you not want to eat our delicious ambrosia to your heart's content and live like a god? Naruto gave a snort. Then he noticed the catgirl peeking out from behind the door of the restaurant he was eating at. When the three arrived, she appeared to be quite surprised. Now, I don't give a damn about any of your awards. I want neither your food nor your lifestyle. Do you know why? I make my own food and lead my own lifestyle. I will eat until I pass out when I get back home because it is truly the food of the gods. What use do I make of your paltry offers, then? He avoided giving them a little laugh as he observed their shocked expressions. He then gave the catgirl a wink after noticing her ghostly white face. 3, 2, 1. How dare you fool? I shall smight you. I never liked ambrosia much either. The three gods spoke at the same time, and unlike the other two, the inquisitive blue-haired man did not appear to take offense at Naruto. The middle one took a few extra steps forward and slammed his big fist into his chest. Young. Zeus is who I am. God of thunder and Lord of the sky. You have the audacity to reject me and act so haughtily? It's possible that the God of the Bible couldn't manage you well. But I'll make up for his error. Bend down and pay the price for your ignorance. His palm ignited with lightning, and a few massive bolts were soon launched in Naruto's direction. With lightning speed, the shot forward, and Naruto swung his palm out to deflect the glowing yellow projectiles. They burst into a shower of sparks and crashed into the buildings behind him. Without pausing to assess the damage, Naruto rushed in the direction of the three. His hands shot through several seals as his chakra roared through his coils. Lava release. Melted earth. Silently, he spoke, and globs of molten earth oozed forth from the ground beneath the gods. Leaping free, they divided throughout the heavens. With a menacing smile, Naruto sped in the direction of the now separate Zeus. His fist was covered in a thick layer of chakra, and he struck the god in the face. Zeus shot into the paved road below with a loud bang that shattered the night air. His body left a massive crater, and there were no immediate signs that he would rise again. Naruto pivoted to gaze upon the other two. His voice was harsh and cold. "Don't put me to the test. Now go. If you make another attempt to harm me, there won't be a third chance, I swear to you." He channeled some of Kurama's chakra to give his voice a little extra intimidation, and it boomed with strength. The fiery haired man, Hades, who he thought was Poseidon's frill-headed messenger, responded. "You believe that a display of power would frighten us? From one of the old pantheons, we are the elder gods. We have faced numerous formidable opponents. One god has defeated you. Don't try to take on the three of us." Zeus' rage rendered him blind. "We won't." Kuroka gazed down the street, his eyes wide. She was aware of Naruto's strength. It would have taken godlike strength to have fought and survived against Great Red. However, it seemed that he had just delivered a single blow to knock out Zeus. Not to mention his lava controlling skills. Both Poseidon and Hades called forth their powers, causing their auras to come to life all around them. As Poseidon appeared to be surrounded by blue waves, spectral blue flames seemed to lick at his skin. Poseidon called forth a trident, while Hades produced a pitchfork with two black tines. Then there was a loud crack that reverberated throughout the street as Zeus emerged from his crater and positioned himself alongside his brothers. A more expansive golden aura ignited around him. His hand was filled with an intense golden bolt of energy. Naruto let out a mental sigh. What a disappointment. In an instant, Naruto collected some of the surrounding natural energy and transformed it into a tiny quantity of Sage Chakra. Using this, he immediately entered his six-paths Sage mode. Witnesses saw Naruto close his eyes in concentration for a split second before vanishing. Poseidon was struck by the six paths of his Senjutsu Power Fist. His head was pulped by the physical strength that overpowered his godlike body and sliced straight through his life force. Despite the red mist that burst out in all directions, Naruto was already on the move once more. His truth seeking ball obeyed his command, and a black chakra rod shot into his hand. With a single swing, the rod destroyed Hades' battlefork and left a dusty trail that penetrated the god's chest. The elder god of the Greek pantheon discovered that his fabled thunderbolt had disintegrated, his heart had turned to dust, and he had fallen from the sky when Naruto then struck Zeus with his chakra rod. At the same moment, all three bodies crashed into the earth. In an instant, Naruto had eliminated every one of them. Never again would he waver or give a god like being another chance. This was his second time making this error. He always refused to give anything a second chance. One moment Naruto was going to fight three gods in a titanic battle, according to Kuroka. Three gods. Then he closed his eyes, though. She sensed it the moment his eyes closed. Her death was in front of her. She could see Naruto looming over her lifeless body, his expression expressionless as he gave her a cold stare. Abruptly, she was back on the ground outside the diner, her terror taking over. Glancing up, she witnessed the three gods plummeting. Zeus's chest was a gaping hole, Poseidon's head was missing, and Hades appeared to have been sliced in half. Even though Naruto was hovering there, something about his aura had changed. He had changed his attire a little, donning a shimmering golden coat. There was an overwhelming intensity to the way his hair and shoes shone. Like an ant in front of its creator, she felt. She was familiar with godlike auras. But everything she thought was possible was eclipsed by Naruto's aura right now. His strength was unsurpassed by anything a god could accomplish. Was Great Red really this strong? How had he vanquished Naruto previously? Naruto looked down at the sound of the three gods' bodies colliding with the road. He swept his arm in their direction silently, and 3 black balls emerged. Kuroka saw each corpse vanish into dust as one struck it. The 3 elder gods of the Greek pantheon vanished as a breeze passed by. Destroyed in a moment by this one man. Kuroka was made to shrink as small as possible and tremble in front of him by the fierce power in his gaze. Naruto looked at her, unsure of what to do. She had never been hostile to him, but he could kill her. Instead, she pursued him like a lost feline in search of a new master. He let out a sigh. Naruto's 6-path sage mode vanished, leaving him suspended in midair. Kuroka, please inform others of this. Many people here have already received second chances from me. I'll kill anyone who approaches me again. When I tell you people to leave me alone, do you not get what I mean? Naruto turned around and vanished from sight. Kuroka just sat there, staring wide-eyed as several leaves spiraled down from his perch in the sky. Naruto brought about changes. It was terrifying, both his existence and his power. The real fear she felt, though, came from not knowing what he would do next. When the others arrived, Kuroka was still standing in the street. Hecate, Janus, Nike, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Aphrodite, Hera, Demeter, Dionysus, Hermes, Nike, Hypnos, and Tyche. A dazzling burst of golden light revealed the multitude of Greek gods. Hera moved forward and said something. "Girl, where is my husband? Where are his brothers?" Kuroka was compelled to respond to the stunning woman because of her captivating voice. The 3 brothers had fallen into craters, and the other gods were gathered around them. Kuroka was about to respond when a figure in rusty red crashed into the earth and a streak of ruddy light shot across the sky. The earth shook with his landing, and Kuroka looked up to see Ares' menacing face. One of the strongest gods in the universe and the god of war in ancient Greek mythology. With a growl, he spoke. "Where is Hephaestus? Don't tell me the old fool is still in his smithy? Does he not feel the absence?" His words came out rough and fast. A stark contrast to Hera's serene, smooth voice. But Kuroka snapped her mouth shut and remained silent, perceiving that his question was not directed at her. Hera turned to face the newcomer. She didn't seem to be bothered by his tone. "Ares, dear. You know Hephaestus has some very important work at the moment." Zeus was firm in his command that he not leave for anything. With a snort, Ares moved toward the nearest crater and shoved Hermes aside so he could have a better look. Hera turned to face Kuroka again, her eyes full of expectation. "Lady Hera. You husband and his brothers, they're dead." The gods around her winced at the words, and Hera advanced menacingly in her direction. Her gaze was venomous, and her aura was bubbling just beneath her skin. Her voice sliced through the twilight like a whip. "Do you dare lie to me? My husband and his brothers could not have all been killed at the speed their signatures disappeared. Speak truly, what happened?" Kuroka was brought to her knees by her imposing presence. She let out a sharp breath and turned to face the enraged goddess. Dealing with gods really did not sit well with her. "Lady Hera, I spoke no falsehood." The being known as 666 was talking with the brothers. I was not close enough to hear what they said. But they clearly did not reach an agreement, and 666 flared his power. More words were exchanged, and then the brothers summoned their strength. But 666 powered up further, and within several seconds he slew them and turned their bodies to dust. Kuroka stared at the ground, praying that the messenger would not be killed. But all of a sudden, there was another group of divine beings. Ethereal golden light also shrouded their arrival. Kuroka peered, swallowing what she saw. "Oh, what do we have here, I wonder? I sensed old man Zeus and his brothers in a fight, but I don't see them, nor do I sense them any further. Could it be they were killed?" The Greek gods were all frozen with fear at the arrival and felt a shiver run down their spines. Ares moved to greet the newcomers. "Scum! What are you doing here?" Kuroka sensed that a fight was going to break out because she could feel his power bubbling. These two groups have harbored animosity toward one another since their very beginnings. She swiftly slithered down the street and away from the approaching fight after realizing that the gods were concentrating on each other. Clearly, before she was out of earshot, she could hear one more sentence. "You dare, Ares? You are nothing but a shitty weak god of war. Mars, am everything you wished you could be. Speak again and you will die trash. Whoa. That's a big number of gods. Naruto had just arrived at a standard hotel located on the opposite side of the city. But he was nervous about so many gods showing up at once. He was aware, of course, that his actions would draw a large following. However, he genuinely didn't want to get any more involved in anything. I hope they just go away and leave me alone. Kurama gave a snort. There is no way you are going to get to sleep tonight. Just accept it and head into the dimensional gap already. Naruto let out a sigh. It was true what Kurama said. As long as he continued to exist in this dimension, he probably wouldn't be left alone. But he was not prepared to go back just yet. His chakra was still depleted. And he would need to use all of his strength to face what awaited him. So while he healed, he had been passing the time in this city. All the powers flared up, and it was obvious that a fight was coming. Naruto could tell without a doubt that the second group of arrivals was more powerful. He had most likely eliminated the main players for the first group. Their reaction time was presumably influenced by their bond with the 3 people he killed. However, he shrugged his shoulders, and a clone materialized beside him. The clone went to sit alertly in the room's chair while Naruto lay down to try and sleep as much as possible. They nodded to each other. He had some doubts about getting a full night's sleep. Holy crap. Holy moly. Holy shit. Issei, don't shout. We really don't want to attract attention. Her pawn panicked and Rias chastised her. The group as a whole felt his reaction. Issei was the group's most expressive member, and his excessive worrying was not beneficial to anyone. Perched on their club room's roof were Rias and her peerage. Sona was standing on the school roof across from them with her peerage. Rias had summoned her peerage together as soon as she sensed Naruto's divine power spiking. She did not want one of them to get caught in the crossfire of whatever was going on. Her peers had all stiffened and attempted to keep their cool when several dozen gods suddenly appeared in the city. When you need Big Brother, where is he? Sona reported, speaking with her sister. However, brother ignored my message. This is not the time to be preoccupied. Shortly after, a sizable crimson magic circle materialized on the schoolyard beneath them. Inside the pentagram was emphasized Sirzek's personal crest. A second, larger circle appeared and started to etch out a large blue pentagram before the first circle could fully materialize. From the center glowed the bright crest of Seraphil. Sona and Rias descended to welcome their siblings. Sirzek and his entire peerage materialized in a flurry of red light, clustered over the enchanted circle. In a flash of blue, Seraphil's peerage appeared momentarily after. Before anyone could say anything, Sirzek was tightly hugging and crushing Rias. Oh Rias. You are all right. I was so worried when I felt the divine beings flare their power in Kuo. But it seems to have gotten even worse than several moments ago. Despite her brother's loud and pleading voice, Rias simply grinned at his antics. But then he whirled, and he gave a command, his voice growing harsher. Beowulf, go scout. I want to know exactly what is happening. Although he was relieved to see his sister unharmed, he now had to make sure she remained that way. After giving her sister a quick hug, Seraphil made eye contact with the 2 Satans, and a quick nod from Seraphil conveyed the information he required. Rias, take your peerage and go with Sona back to the underworld. It is not safe for you to stay in Kuo right now. Rias looked in shock at her brother. This had the potential to alter the course of history. She was going to get a front row seat, no matter what. She pursed her lips and tried to project as much sisterly charm as possible. Boot brew. Fear. I wanna stay. I wanna watch. Please let me stay. With the cute attack upon him, Sir Zax felt his resolve eroding. However, his wife had anticipated this event and had asked to assist him when it materialized. And with that, Graphia strode over to give Sirzek a severe headshake. Lord Lucifer. Now is not the time to be second-guessing orders. Rias, listen to your brother's orders and return to the underworld. You do not have a choice in the matter. Now Lord Lucifer, Lady Leviathan, we should head closer in case we need to act with haste. With her mind made up, she threw Sirzek over her shoulder and spread her wings. She was followed into the sky by Sir Zek's peerage, and she followed them in return after Seraphel had reprimanded Sona. Rias's eyes glinted in Sona's glasses, and they both gave each other a smug little look and decided to follow along at the same time. You dare call me trash, Mars? Say one more thing and I will spit you upon my spear. Your guts will stain the street red. 1,000 punishments will be wrought upon your mother and your father will become my personal servant. I am Ares. Hera was looking tiredly at the newcomers. She also realized she needed to defuse the situation when her son began to argue with his counterpart. She moved forward, closing the path for Ares. She gave him a fierce look before turning to nod courteously in the direction of her counterpart. Lords and ladies of the Roman pantheon, good evening. My son is as unruly as ever, please ignore his earlier remarks. Now I wish to inquire as to the reason you have arrived here at this time? A massive figure came forward. He towered over everyone present. A giant glowing man dressed in silk and gold finery. He carried a large wooden staff in his bare torso. His voice boomed out, laughing. Hera, Hera, Hera. I think you know why we are here. Your lords have fallen. The enmity between our pantheons has been rising as of late, has it not? In fact, a little bird has told me the reason behind Zeus's visit here. He was trying to acquire someone to fight for your pantheon. He sought our destruction. But his death was all he received. Now we come to finish the task which 666 left unfinished. Mars leapt swiftly over his father, Jupiter, and in his hands materialized a bloody golden spear. For the last time you have insulted me, trash. Die. The gods surrounding him all released their powers at his exclamation. Each and every Greek god in existence had a Roman equivalent. Normally, the number would be even. However, the Greek team lacked their 3 key players. There was also no Hephaestus. For the outnumbered, things appeared bleak. In an instant, Ares materialized his shield and spear and engaged Mars in combat. Their rivalry dates back a long way. Ares was traditionally thought of as a malevolent god of war. One who brought destruction. On the other hand, Mars was revered as a great hero and someone to pray for success. Their power was significantly impacted by this basic difference. The mighty Roman legions offered their prayers to Mars. As Ares was derided in conversation. Gods were made stronger by prayer. Ares was thus knocked back as the 2 gods of war engaged in combat. They clashed again the moment he let out a grunt. They exchanged jabs and blocked stabs back and forth. Every blow sent shockwaves through the neighborhood, causing the nearby buildings to collapse under the force. Glass flew from the broken windows and onto the street. Hera saw her son square off against his opponent, but she knew the fight would end in defeat. Glancing around at the other Greek gods, she turned. Brothers and sisters, I have lived a long life as your queen. From the time we won our freedom off the Titans till now I am glad to have spent this life in your company. But we can no longer run from this conflict. Without Zeus we stand no chance. But let us bring wrath to this world one final time. Let our power sing across the land and our voices shout their final war cries. Our pantheon will not silently go into the void. So take up arms with me and let us cripple this arrogant upstart group of gods. Hera burst into a powerful tornado. She was framed against the night sky by a large golden aura. She turned to face the gods of Rome. She lifted her arm and pointed. Juno, you self. Righteous bitch, today I shall take your soul into the void alongside my own. She shot forward, shattering the sound barrier. Hera struck her opponent directly across the chest, directing her whole essence into a single blow. A massive cracking sound that resulted from the blow was barely audible above the commotion that Ares and Mars were creating. Every god measured up to their counterpart across the line. The Greeks charged in after their queen as the taunts echoed back and forth. But the Romans were ready after that brief pause while they watched Hera. Aphrodite and Venus engaged in a battle of magical blasts, while Demeter confronted Ceres, Athena attacked Minerva, and Artemis aimed her bow at Diana. Mercury and Hermes were seen darting back and forth in a rapid barrage of blade strikes. Bacchus was challenged to a drinking contest by Dionysus. Hypnos and Somnus had announced a staring competition. It was unnecessary to mention their vow to cut their own throats if they blinked. Victoria and Nike were engaged in a race with one another. Arcus and Iris collided in a brilliant rainbow show. They struck back and forth, their staves igniting brilliantly. Taish and Fortuna wagered that whichever god prevailed in their battle would take the other's life. However, a small number on both sides lacked a match. Jupiter could simply roam the battlefield and defeat the combating gods now that Zeus was dead. But as he moved to confront the unrivaled Greeks, Neptune, Pluto, and Vulcan were positioned to flank him. Apollo, Janus, and Hecate, you three know what I am here to ask. Originally you abandoned the Greek pantheon to join us and continue being worshipped. I will ask you just this once. Come back again or perish where you stand. As he addressed them, his voice erupted with strength. Hecate raised both of her torches in a flourish and spoke softly from under her hood. Of course, Lord Jupiter, it is not my time to perish. I shall reclaim my position within your hall. Jupiter was looking toward Apollo, while Janus was muttering to himself and being ignored by both groups. Apollo flashed a brilliant smile and gave a thumbs up. You know me, Jupiter, I would never miss a chance to keep on shining. Count me back on your team. But you might as well just kill Janus. He will never come to a decision. It's kind of his thing, ya know? Jupiter let out a loud laugh, and a bolt of lightning shot from his hands, creating a huge chasm that blew through Janus's chest. A shimmering rain of golden ichor splattered the ground below, causing the two-faced god to slowly fall backward. Jupiter turned back to the fighting and watched the fights. Hera had double-teamed Ceres in multiple other fights that she had participated in. She had cut Somnus's throat, approaching him from behind. She was helping Ares's battered form with Mars right now. However, in every other place, the Greek equivalents were lying dead on the ground. Even Fortuna had taken Taisha's head after half the Greeks had been vanquished. There was an obvious winner in this fight, and the outcome did not have to be decided until the final bouts. Jupiter chuckled. The only ones still breathing were Hera and Ares. He quickly moved forward, severing Mars' final blow. You think you have accomplished something with your defiance, Hera? Well, look around you. Kuo, the nearby city, was on fire. The city was nearly half destroyed, and there were fires in every corner. When the fighting started, the residents had already left, but burned bodies were scattered everywhere. For Hera, the worst part of it all was that Pluto might be able to bring the dead Roman gods back to life because he was still alive and functioning at 100%. He had great control over the afterlife, and it's likely that he had already captured their vanishing spirits and was getting ready to reunite them with their bodies. Hera cast a glance down at her son's bleeding body. She did not want to see Ares die, even though he had always been a pain. Not like this, for sure. Around her, a golden ichor spilled into the ever-growing puddle. She wanted to cry for her pantheon's misfortune. However, her honor would not permit it. Jupiter glanced over at his wife's opposite. He laughed inwardly. There had been hundreds of years leading up to this fight. Since they were longtime rivals, they had shared the desire to destroy one another. It had never occurred to him that it would be so simple. He had always dreamed of killing Zeus following a tremendous battle that shook the earth and the heavens. Gazing down on the beaten figure of his adversary, he would stand amidst enormous craters and erupting lava jets. A bolt of lightning would come down toward them as the rain began to pour all around him. He would grab hold of the bolt and deliver the final blow using the same element that both he and Zeus controlled. However, an anomaly killed both his rival and the other two brothers of the three great Grecian gods. A person who was identified as the prophecy's bearer. Without any fanfare, he stepped forward and his arm shot out in a blur. Hera's head was yanked off with a crack of lightning, and in a second motion, Ares's heart lay splattered on the concrete like a golden paste covered in blood. He had truly lost his moment of victory to 666. Such a defeat in a god versus god struggle had instantly signaled the Greeks' demise. With a sigh, he turned to face his allies. Vulcan, go to Olympus and do what you have always wanted. When you have slain Hephaestus, destroy everything. He held back on making a magnificent victory speech. He'd gotten the words just right a long time ago. He would crow in triumph, holding Zeus's head in his palm, and give a detailed account of all the wrongs the Greeks had done them in the past. But he thought it was offensive. He no longer felt like he had accomplished anything. The earth gave way slightly, and the gods gathered disappeared in a burst of golden light. 10 miles from the fighting, Sears hung in the air. Any closer might be interpreted as an attempt to meddle. Just as they were leaving the school, Beowulf had come back to report the situation. Sears was informed that he had banished Beowulf to the underworld. He had to begin gathering the disparate devils into arms. It didn't matter if they got entangled in any upcoming disputes. It was highly likely, and they could not afford to be caught off guard. He and Seraphel had watched, expressions solemn. When the gods clashed, there was enormous collateral damage. A few of the shockwaves were close to throwing him off balance. In order to shield his peerage from the pressure, he had called forth a barrier. The fight was already decided after the factions had not even engaged in combat for an hour. In one night, a formidable faction was totally destroyed. All due to Naruto tipping the scales. Why had the three gods been slain by Naruto? Would he murder another person? Currently unanswerable questions. Seraphel raised his voice. This is a significant occasion. Now that the Greeks are no longer opposing the Romans, their influence will begin to upset the delicate balance between all the different factions. Sears could not suppress a laugh. Yes, the Greeks and Romans were forced to deliberately disagree with one another on all issues, no matter how minor. Right now, the factions that the Greeks backed must be freaking out. Seraphel gave Sears a disbelieving glance. You do realize that we had good relations with the Greeks? The fallen angels and the Romans were close. They were able to acquire so much land in the underworld in part because of that. The smile vanished from Sears' face. His specialty was not foreign relations. He was in charge of the Devil faction's daily operations and public morale. Well shit. The people gathered around him all nodded. The same words were spoken simultaneously by prophets, oracles, shamans, seers, visionaries, dreamwalkers, and fortune-tellers both on Earth and in the various attached dimensions. The hourglass is no longer full. A significant shift is coming. Alert! The end of the world is near. As soon as his clone moved to wake him, Naruto got up and left the house. His senses began to register the massive spiking power just as he was about to nod off. These insane bastards. In this kind of city, who the hell fights? I had assumed they would have relocated. Now that he was outside the hotel, his hands shot up to his chest, forming a seal in the shape of a cross between his fingers. Silently, several hundred shadow clones appeared. As soon as they touched down, they took off in all directions. Hera had just leapt over and hid Juno as Ares and Mars were engaged in combat in the city's center. There were still plenty of gods to join the fray, and the fighting was getting more intense very quickly. It was obvious that they had no regard for human life around them. Moving soundlessly across the rooftops, he repressed his power to the fullest extent that he could. 100 more clones bloomed away from him each time he stopped a body flicker. His mission was to save as many people as he could. He had already relocated thousands of people to the town's periphery. But high-power attacks were coming from all directions as the all-out brawl in the city center intensified. Although Naruto maintained his composure, he sighed at the senseless waste of life. Naruto was not in the mood to break up the fight right now. The people that this could have prevented were already gone. Those in close proximity had been crushed and killed by the pressure and errant power. At least 2,000 clones were now dispersed throughout the city, transporting the civilians outside. However, a city with Kuo's size would have at least 200,000 residents. The first clone to reach the city's outskirts left a Hirshin marker, and as each clone discovered a citizen, they would pop up there as well. Only to reappear after placing a local marker where they had been moments earlier. Thousands of people were already organizing outside the city using this method. Still, the gods were becoming more violent. The city should mostly survive as long as the big guns stay out of the fight. An office building close to him was destroyed by another massive explosion. Another city block caught fire as the embers pounded the nearby structures. As the gods engaged in combat, he turned to face the fighting and witnessed dozens of shockwaves shooting out from impacts. The sky was filled with cracks of sound all night long. A clone moved the protesters out of the way, muffled the sound of their cries. Should I join the battle? These guys are not going to be as easily caught off guard as the previous three were. I would most likely create some bizarre collateral. What do you think, Kurama? Hey, who gives a damn? The damage is already done, and who knows how much more harm they would do if they felt the need to stop fighting in order to try to kill you. Naruto, none of this matters. You are aware of my position. We must return home. The blonde did not respond, and Kurama did not address the issue again. It was up to him what Naruto did. His opinion was public knowledge. The fighting ended before he could make a decision, though. A different god and a massive figure beheading a woman on her knees shot up into the dark night sky. The city then became silent as one of the other gods disappeared. The crackling of flames was all that could be heard. As soon as the clones realized the citizens were safe, they started to pop. Naruto ignored the information as it poured into his head, allowing it to become part of his overall experience. He observed the extensive damage and surveyed the city from the center of a massive crater. Shaking his head, he disappeared into the alley's shadows. To him, the destruction in the city held no significance. Nothing meant anything, not even the death. He had witnessed far worse. There is an imbalance between the Greeks and Romans because of 666, Lord Rizam. He defeated Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. The Romans promptly took advantage of this and destroyed the last of the Greeks. Rizam whirled around in his armchair with red cushions. His fingers interlocked, he peered at the haphazard servants knelt in front of him. As he spoke, his right eyebrow lifted. Oh? I think 666 is pretty interesting. The servant was hesitant to respond to his rhetorical question. No matter, go and fetch Euclid. The servant rose quickly, bowed, and hurried out of the room. In his castle, Lord Rizam had a reputation for murdering servants who lingered longer than he desired. Come on, 666. Why are you still squandering time in the world of humans? Do you not want to battle your way out of these linked dimensions and past Grade Red? Why do you have to put off my adventure? All he could do was wait while perched in his cozy chair. 666 was the key to defeating Grade Red. Whether or not 666 prevailed didn't really matter. His only goal was to occupy Grade Red's attention long enough for Rizam to intervene. Grade Red flew another circle around Ophis in the dimensional gap. Ever since Naruto's seal was broken, he had been acting in this manner. The same question came out of his deep, booming voice all the time. However, Ophis was unable to respond to him when he first asked, and she was still silent when he asked again. Come on, Ophis. What time will he arrive? What? When will that guy return? He had to be fully recovered by now. The last time, he was far too simple to defeat. Oh? He made another statement. I suppose I'll answer. The small girl with dark hair looked at the circling dragon instead of the endless void. At the time, he was hardly alive. Even though his wounds were healing quickly, it was still clear that his life was in danger. Nevertheless, you hit him from behind, and as soon as he turned to fight, you unleashed a massive cone of fire on him. Amazingly, he survived, but he later disappeared into the human realm. I take it that you weren't happy with the last interaction? Huh? Not happy? Despite being close to death, the man withstood both my flames and my strike. I'm not at all dissatisfied. I am ecstatic beyond measure. He made it through that. Even you would have perished in such a condition. And yet he made it. When we engage in combat, just think of what he will be able to accomplish. Nevertheless, damn. What time will he arrive? Ophis just stared, expressionless. She would continue to wait since she still did not have an answer. That, Rias. What just took place? The whole room was focused on Issei's direct question. Sona was there with her peerage, and as they mixed in with her peerage, the occult research clubroom was starting to get crowded. Gazing at her pawn, she paused to collect her thoughts. Then, a minute later, Rias spoke. All right. It appeared to me that the ancient Greek gods were being fought and killed by the ancient Roman gods. They appear to have killed most of the locals and devastated a significant chunk of Kuo. I am only able to speculate as to why this occurred. Her speech was direct and her tone was uninteresting. It was devoid of her typical sugar-coated joy. The early shock had not yet subsided. Issei just gave a stupid nod of his head. He was having problems making the connection between her statement and reality, so the words kept bouncing around in his mind. Sona got up from one of the couches and cleared her throat. She spoke in her monotonous, boring voice as usual. It's currently anyone's guess as to why this occurred. However, I believe Naruto was heavily involved in this evening's activities. When he displayed his strength before the gods arrived, it was simple to detect his distinct energy signature. Numerous individuals in the room gave a nod of agreement. The group was lost in thought and silence ensued for 15 minutes. A few morning birds were chirping outside the window, and soon the sun would begin to rise above the horizon. The quiet was abruptly broken when multiple people stormed into the room. Rias. What keeps you here, exactly? You should go back to the underworld, I said. Her brother's tone was unforgiving and he appeared serious. However, as soon as Rias noticed Sirzex's distress, he quickly softened his gaze. It was obvious that she had been shaken up by the fight. Her system would have been shocked just by the pressure alone. Fortunately, no one belonging to her peerage had been adversely affected. Thus, she ought to soon get over her shock. When Sirzex noticed Rias, he paused momentarily. Yet Seraphel had accelerated, hurtling straight toward her younger sister. As her sister fussed over her, Sona flashed a rare smile. I'm all right, Seraphel. Get off of me, please. Seraphel let out a gasp. Sona. Treat me differently. It's only natural for me to fuss for Lil when I see you because all I was worried about was you. So, Missy, just sit there and handle it. Let magical girl Levia give you a healing hug for a little while longer. She'll make everything better. Seraphel rubbed herself all over Sona while Issei just stared. However, his attention was diverted when he noticed Sirzex violently shaking Rias. He shouted something about shaking her out of shock at that point. Issei was too preoccupied with her chest, which was trembling uncontrollably, to notice whether it was functioning or not. With a sigh at their shenanigans, Akeno moved swiftly to speak with Issei about something. Kiba was standing by the window, staring out at the rising sun, while Kaneko was attempting to console Gasper. The two sisters were surrounded by Sona's peers. Unnoticed by anyone else, Graphia stood close to her. Well, hello, Lady Graphia. I missed the entry you made. How's your early morning? Graphia turned to look at the young queen, choosing to look past her husband's pranks. Salutations, Akeno. I'm doing pretty good. But I think something is wrong with young Lady Rias. I'll make an early breakfast as a result. A satisfying meal is always beneficial. Graphia pivoted and proceeded deeper into the clubroom. Humming to herself, Akeno looked around the room again and saw that everyone was still doing their thing. She made the decision to follow the elderly woman to the rear kitchen as a result. The air was distorted as a vertical black slit appeared out of nowhere. The dimensional gaps grayish. Black background made it difficult to see. As Naruto emerged from the portal, a head with bright blonde hair peered through the faint rift that measured more than 6 feet in height. As the hole closed behind him, Naruto took a quick look around. The horizon appeared to go on forever everywhere he looked, but it also appeared to be a jumbled, fuzzy mess of darkness. Like a mist hovered just beyond his field of vision. The perception of depth in the void of the dimensional gap was highly distorted. Still, Naruto didn't have to look where he was going. This void contained 2 energy signatures and they were located far to his right. His eyes drifted over his left shoulder to the horizon, drawn by an odd attraction. What Naruto was searching for was this sensation of being pulled in that direction. That direction was marked by a unique rift. He would be able to enter the larger dimensional network and exit this dimensional cluster through this rift. He had previously been in this area. His sense of balance was severely off, and his exit had been disorienting. He had stretched his senses to take in his surroundings as he floated in the emptiness. Only to be caught off guard by a strong blow. A massive tongue of yellow flame had swept over him after the strike. Although his body had protected him from the majority of the damage instinctively, the strong flame had still left its mark. Naruto swiftly tore open a portal and leapt through it to safety because he was even more injured than when he entered through the previous portal. At least that was his initial hope. He had been thrown into this cluster of dimensions via a connecting tunnel after being expelled from the larger network in some way. He was much stronger and in better condition than when he had previously visited this hazy realm. Naruto, now almost at maximum power, had no intention of being caught off guard or facing any delays in returning home. He spun around in midair and used his chakra to move forward. Simultaneously, he observed the two signatures that were now approaching him. Whether or not he would reach the rift before they did would be a close call. Naruto, just turn and fight them. We simply cannot afford to blow up our whole reserve to get out of this dimension. When we get home, we're going to need everything. Naruto remained silent in response to Kurama's assertion. However, when Naruto reduced his speed to the point where he was currently producing chakra more quickly than he was using it for travel, the big fox realized his container had taken his advice. His assailants caught up with him after he flew through the void for several more minutes. There was a deep voice that echoed through silence. "Hey, buddy. Why are you taking off in a plane? Are you not coming this time to deal with me properly? I can tell that this fight will be good." The massive black eyes of the dragon glinted strangely. His tone was lighthearted, but it was clear that he was trying to use bloodlust to coerce Naruto into giving up. With a simple sigh, Naruto faced the beast. He was momentarily taken aback by the sight of a small girl dressed in a frilly purple dress. Not that they would ever find out. Expert ninjas were not taken by surprise. "Look, I'm just attempting to get away. Thus, I won't bother you, and you won't bother me." Despite the extreme intent to kill, Naruto remained unfazed. He had really faced much worse in the past. He was not in the mood or had the time to mess around with this beast. However, the sentiment was not returned. The dragon roared with a deep laugh in its throat. "Leave you by yourself? Not at all. Not in my opinion. This time, you won't be able to flee from me when you fight me. You don't belong here, trespasser." The creature sprang ahead. Where Naruto had been only a second before, his mouth snapped. Dozens of clones materialized all around the dragon, and they silently unleashed an enormous combination of wind and fire maneuvers. Great Red was unharmed even though the dragon's scales were being battered by the hell storm. With a quick span, he whipped out his tail and chased away half the clones. With a roar of annoyance at being killed by imposters, Great Red pivoted to face the remaining Naruto group. A swirling cone of bright flames burst forth as his jaw snapped open. As Great Red spread his flames horizontally, the remaining clones burst apart upon being ensnared. However, the real Naruto was just above the head of the dragon. His irritated gaze narrowed. He had intended for the clones to divert the dragon's attention as he made his way out. However, it appeared that they would not be able to postpone it for very long. To move, he would need to either kill or cripple the dragon. Over his right palm gathered a large swirling Rasengan. A high-pitched drone sliced through the emptiness, leaving a noticeable white tint along the edge. A circle with 4 revolving blades emerged around the center ball. When Naruto pulled his arm back to aim, the vortex that resembled a shuriken retreated. His arm shot down in a blur, whipping the ball in the direction of the dragon's bare back. Silently, Ophis observed as Great Red destroyed the replicas and she perceived what she believed to be the authentic one hovering above. She questioned what would happen when he conjured up a whirling ball of energy and hurled it. Great Red was made aware of the impending attack by the high-pitched whine. As he attempted to dive away, the attack clipped one of his wings, but his bulk worked against him. A corona of white light erupted into a storm of microscopic wind blades. Ophis watched the devastating force of the attack as a shockwave blew her hair around her head. Great Red was pulped to the joint on the left wing. The massive dragon roared in agony as flesh. Like blobs appeared in every direction. That was what the fuck was. "My brother. I will murder you over that one." A bone pierced Great Red's back, and the muscles of his wing grew out from the growing bone with a sickening squelching noise. Leathery skin trailed behind the muscles like a rippling wave. The entire wing was whole again in 15 seconds. Naruto became even angrier. This creature could regenerate, of course. Naturally, of course. Nevertheless, the dragon's massive size meant that it took a long time for him to heal from severe damage. Great Red whirled around, giving Naruto a glare. He growled and grinded his teeth together. With his wings spread wide, he vigorously flailed his way upward. A massive stream of flame shot out, but Naruto ducked. Great Red started firing quickly in an effort to bring his cunning opponent to heel. For his part, Naruto was swerving around a bit. But he was debating in his head how to put an end to this fight. He knew what status this dragon was in. This dimension could suffer grave consequences from its demise. A closer gout of flame than the previous one almost burned him. Oh. I could simply close this place. Yes, that will work, I see. Apologies, big guy. With a swift motion, Naruto smashed a heavy hook across the dragon's nose with his left hand. Great Red flinched back and growled once more. How on earth did he miss this guy? A Rasengan twice as large as the previous one was called forth by Naruto. The energy ball smashed into Great Red's right shoulder's scaled flank as he extended his arm. The Rasengan attempted to drill through the hard, scaly hide, producing a harsh, grating sound that reverberated. With a thud, Great Red slapped Naruto on the neck, sending him flying 100 feet away. TCH. Get over it, people. That is really painful. The dragon's shoulder was carved into a shallow, round chunk. However, the Rasengan was unable to drill any deeper without more time. Just kill this creature already. Do it now. We need to be somewhere, stated Kurama. The enormous fox was constantly expressing his opinion about how Naruto appeared to be wasting time. Naruto scowled. I guess there's no other option. But I have to get rid of this guy. The clone that was seated in the forest outside of Kuo burst. A tremendous surge of refined sage chakra surged into Naruto's body, despite the fact that part of it was lost while traveling across dimensions. He stilled briefly and focused the chakra, demonstrating his discipline. He was in sage mode the next moment, and his body showed it. Great Red and Ophis observed the alterations. Before they could respond, Naruto released a brilliant burst of golden light. They witnessed Naruto in his former glory as the light faded. In his six-path sage mode, Naruto glowed with unadulterated golden energy. While he assessed his opponent, his body glowed like a beacon. Before anyone could even blink, Great Red was facing Naruto. He thrust a truth-seeking ball between the dragon's eyes, holding it cupped in his palm. The black ball broke the skin and scales as it touched them, like a rock through wet tissue paper. Great Red reacted quickly, sticking Naruto up to his elbow inside the dragon's forehead. He thrashed his head violently, but Naruto remained where he was. His arm remained locked in place, hard as steel. More of his head vaporized, and the dragon shivered. Under Naruto's mental control, the truth-seeking ball grew quickly. Now, Great Red was roaring desperately, trying to push himself closer to Naruto. However, a second truth-seeking ball was used to destroy the offending pause and block the impending strike. The resounding roars abruptly stopped. Ophis gazed with wide eyes. There was nothing where the head of the strongest existence had once been. Great Red was destroyed in a matter of seconds, and his opponent didn't appear to be trying. Ophis was immune to amazement or terror. However, she felt humbled in front of Naruto's immense power. To his strength, she was like an ant. As Naruto turned to face the little girl, the massive corpse drifted aimlessly through space. There was no emotion in her that he could detect. He didn't care that it was strange. Do you wish to block my passage as well? Despite the calmness in his voice, the question carried a clear threat. She shook her head, staring at him. Then Naruto turned and vanished in an instant. Ophis felt him tearing toward the odd portion of the opening. How come he would be going there? The silence parted as Naruto accelerated ahead of him. He could see the approach of his destination. Unconsciously, he increased his speed. Naruto was preoccupied with thoughts of going home, and he was only dimly aware of his surroundings. It was a fact that the easy part would be getting home. Everything was going to blow up when he came back. Hundreds of years have passed in this dimension. That means everything at home will also be hundreds of years older? However, Kurama brought up the relativity theory. How, exactly, did it go again? The big fox let out a mental sigh. Despite his transformation, Naruto remained Naruto. Furthermore, the blonde's brain would never retain explanations that were unduly complex. Depending on where you were in relation to other places, time can move in different ways. Thus, a minute is a minute, and a second is still a second. However, a year here could only be 1 second back home, or 1 minute in this dimension could be a year back home. Alternatively, they could perceive time in an identical manner, where a second exists regardless of one's location. Correct. Thus, it could be a millennium from now when we get home, or it could have been a millennium ago. In essence, the only way to find out is to return home as soon as you can and cross your fingers. We have no idea. Yes, I do recall. So how long? Naruto abruptly cut off his question and spun around to stop. As his slipstream passed over the region, a wave of air shot around. He could see hundreds of figures emerging in the distance. The group was emitted with the dark energy associated with devils. Their bat-like wings, which fluttered, added to their identification. Ooh? Curiously, Naruto saw a familiar figure emerge. The person who had freed him from that rock was that person. At that moment, what had this guy been talking about? Since Naruto had freed him from the rock, did he expect his assistance? He gave a snort. That's a slim chance. Sisters. Brothers. Listen to me out. A throng of angels was gathered around Raphael. He was softly floating atop a cloud that was entirely white, and his halo was dazzlingly golden. The audience fell silent to hear him because of the importance of his voice. A serious seraph is not to be disregarded. A huge disaster is taking place. The beast is wreaking havoc and killing thousands of people down on Earth. Michael is happy to ride out this storm. He will watch helplessly as our charges are killed and our tenants are defiled. The being that guided our Lord to his death exhibits his liberty and indulges in horrible transgressions. Michael wants us to stay out of his way. Heaven is overflowing with requests for help. We do nothing as this creature threatens to bring about the end of the world. Raphael's remarks enthralled the audience. He played on their sense of justice and servitude while using charming language. His yell only served to enlist their support for his beliefs. Subsequently, he spoke in a barely audible whisper. But he was audible to all. No. Personally, I'm at my breaking point. I searched for righteousness at the feet of our Lord for countless years. I was a guardian of the defenseless, doing as he commanded. After his death, I promised, upon his passing, to do everything within my power to carry out our late Lord's wishes. Raphael leaned forward. His head was bowed and his fists were clenched. There were scattered murmurs of agreement among the crowd. Then, as he yelled, Raphael stood erect, his passion shining through. I can't stand by any longer. I vow to track down the beast and use every resource at my disposal to vanquish it and all other evil in our world. I will no longer be a bystander. Brothers. Women. One will join me? A loud applause echoed. All the heavenly powers shook the earth, and golden halos buzzed. The angels rose, and hundreds of backs shot pure white feathered wings, racing toward the armory. Raphael saw the impact of his speech and smiled maniacally. Naruto was about to move forward when another rift opened up in the gap behind him. A tremendous surge of celestial force erupted into the dark emptiness. A flood of angels was about to arrive, announced by shimmering halos. Their glowing golden swords were clenched firmly in their hands as the brilliant light glistened off their gold armor. The angels raced in the direction of the assembling devils without giving Naruto a second look. They had no idea what 666 looked like. But he was undoubtedly the ringleader of any group of evil devils that may have assembled. Rizam gaped in shock as hundreds of angels flocked to his assembling followers. How was Michael putting this together? Did he really believe that fighting in the open would not violate any of the loose peace accords? Whatever the result of this upcoming conflict, another war was certain to be started. One of his subordinates let out a roar of rage, and the hot-blooded devil pulled out his weapon. A massive, spiteful blade. The surrounding light was drawn in by it. A beckoning darkness, deeper than the emptiness. Driven by his purpose and rage, the devil charged at the angel, his blade trailing behind him, head first. The other devils took a moment to realize what was going on, but their charging comrades served as inspiration, and similar yells of rage signaled the beginning of a massive devil countercharge. Rizam wanted to sigh at the battle that would not go away. Instead, he felt his old resentment resurface as a bolt of holy energy passed by his face. He pivoted to face the recognizable energy signature. Raphael, it's been a while, right? Are you here to kill me? How could you have possibly been aware of my movements here? One of the strongest angels, Raphael, was floating in his brilliant glory along with Seraph, a legendary commander and warrior from long ago. He had commanded innumerable conflicts between the Devilkind and anyone else who disagreed with his lord's orders. And the one angel that Rizam detested above all. Raphael had already defeated him twice in person, and his strategic maneuvers had foiled numerous Rizam plots. Raphael snorted mockingly, breaking his stony gaze. Where is he at the moment? 666 is where? Do you sinners believe that you can conspire with that beast and avoid being punished by heaven? Tell me right now, scum. Naruto spent several minutes observing the developing conflict in the meantime, before he finally stopped thinking and turned to face his target. The area inside the void where he could open a rift to the larger dimensional network was only 100 meters away. The exit from this densely networked cluster. It was there in the blink of an eye for Naruto. His dense power pulsed through his body. The chakra of the six paths was incredibly powerful, and he would require a significant amount of it to break through this portal. He narrowed his focus and hurried past 50 hand signals. There was no name for this method. He simply needed the signs to help him properly contort his chakra because the level of control he needed was so great. Waves of power and missed attacks were flying in all directions as the battle heated up. The fight had already claimed many lives, and it was still getting hotter. Naruto moved before Raphael and Rizam could exchange blows. A massive shimmering wave of pale chakra emerged from his extended fingertips. He quickly made a clone and swiftly navigated through a dozen more hand signals before it left his body. The clone standing next to him quickly collected the waning chakra and began forming it into a hollow ring that measured 4 meters in diameter. Naruto had just entered the ring's center after completing the following step. He floated there, shaped like a stumpy starfish, with his arms and legs fully extended. A brilliant golden six-paths sage chakra cascaded out of his body and connected to the ring on all sides with a grunt of exertion. At this point, Naruto was directing most of his chakra into the ring. Kurama had advised him to err on the side of caution and overcharge the portal just to be safe, as it was his first time using this hypothetical technique. The moment his power left his body, a tremendous pressure wave emerged. Immediately, the fighters more than 1,000 meters away froze. The unbearable pressure limited their movements. Everybody looked in that direction. With light emanating from within his ring and a vivid glow, Naruto resembled an otherworldly deity. In their duel, Raphael and Rizam had stopped to assess the situation. All of a sudden, the ring started to pulse, and everyone felt intense pressure waves that were rhythmically washing over them. The fighters struggled to stay conscious while more than half of them passed out. Naruto abruptly bent into a ball inside the throbbing ring. Subsequently, he let go of a last wave of six-paths sage chakra, screaming out his effort. The clone had to shield its eyes to avoid being blinded as the portal flashed brighter than before. The spectators were unaware of what was coming, and those who were still conscious now had to contend with the aftermath of their momentary blindness. Naruto stabilized the portal, causing it to hum with energy. He would undoubtedly have to find a way to make this method more efficient. It was far too time-consuming and energy-intensive to be of any use outside of this dire circumstance. Then he vanished out of sight. He appeared in the portal one moment, then vanished the next. The floating ring of chakra was the only evidence that Naruto had ever been there. His clone had already burst. The angels, who were more resilient to light, regained their sight before the fighters, who had been confined, found themselves suddenly free. After Naruto left, there was a massive slaughter in which the angels' wrath killed Rizam's followers. They discovered that their real target had managed to get away. Ignore the sheer power he'd released. They could have followed him through his portal, but they had no idea where he was at this point. Surely, their just cause would have prevailed. Rizam watched in horror as his army was destroyed. The angel continued to unleash his fury on the devil, exchanging blows with Raphael at a rapid pace. 666 had diverted attention with the fight. How could he? When Naruto considered passing through the rift, his perspective abruptly shifted. He was staring at the most chaotic scene he had ever seen one moment, and then he was staring into an endless void. There were literally millions of portals just like his, scattered throughout an inconceivably large emptiness. It was similar to the one he had just left, but with much thicker air, and he could feel gravity pulling him toward the center. However, a terrifying display of creatures streamed from those innumerable portals. In front of him, billions of creatures were engaged in a full-scale melee. They represented every conceivable species and composition. Everywhere he turned, he saw a chaotic, bloody free for everyone. Abruptly, a tiny card materialized before him. He extended his hand and grasped it. Prior to reading, "Salutations. A portal to the DXD cluster, 666 Apocalypse variant, has been established by you. The Elemental Nations cluster, 5th Shinobi World War variant, is where you were originally from. You should sense a pull in your thoughts to go back through the portal if you so choose. Last but not least, congrats on joining the Central Dimensional Network. A portal cannot be closed once it has been opened. I hope you can keep this one safe." And that's it. Kurama. Are you aware of this situation? Oh my god. I completely overlooked this location. Alright, so everything that has ever existed exists in a separate dimension. In addition, the number of parallel dimensions is infinite. This is where they all connect. Naturally, various worlds discovered this location over time. There are also certain parasitic races that are enamored of war. Thus, these dimensions have essentially been engaged in a never-ending conflict with one another. As more and more dimensions find out about this location, the fighting only gets worse. The first time my soul crossed over into our dimension, it was much less chaotic. Naruto tried to process that for a moment in silence, prior to posing a query that had been bothering his mind. Alright, so. Does that imply that Sakura dates me in a different dimension? The fox in his cage resisted the urge to escape and choke his container. Indeed. And yes, before you ask, everything you can possibly think of is real and exists somewhere. With a nod, Naruto sidestepped an errant arrow that whizzed by, prior to smiling and exclaiming, "That is so awesome." But his enthusiasm was soon dashed. "I need to get home." The angels were tending to the wounded and gathering up the remains of their dead. Most of them, though, just watched as Raphael and Rizam engaged in combat. They both appeared to be moving at a steady pace as the intensity of their strikes increased. Rizam didn't have a backup plan. This was the moment when he was supposed to be ruling a foreign dimension. He was therefore becoming more and more desperate. The pounding sound reverberated through the empty space. The angels looked around, then withdrew in disgust. A hideous three-headed, 2-armed and 7-armed beast was emerging from the portal. It appeared to have pale white skin, and its 43 beady red eyes were taking in the world around it rapidly. It was suspended by 2 jagged metal wings. The angels noticed that although it had a somewhat humanoid form, it was wearing dull purple chainmail and held a curved dagger in each of its 9 fingers. It shrieked as it abruptly turned to face the portal. It sounded like a cross between the high-pitched cry of an approaching artillery shell and the cry of a human baby. The creature in the void didn't realize it was a scout. And now it had shrieked the green-lit, all-out assault plan. The guardian of this cluster had died. Avoid, sidestep, avoid, sidestep, snap wrist, avoid, stab. Naruto moved quickly as he made his way through the fighting. It was difficult to stay aware of every possible threat due to the complete chaos that was going on around him. He appeared to be between 2 green monsters, one small and the other tall and thin. He saw thousands of humans carrying weapons somewhere else that constantly popped and fired tiny lead projectiles. They were always moving as a group, shooting towards the horde of fat rat like creatures charging them, and had little trails of fire coming from their feet. He was unable to process everything that was going on. Rather, he was merely paying attention to his movements. Once more, avoid, curve, and waver 100 meters to the right. He was able to avoid everything that came his way because of his constant movement and acute awareness. He cast a sidelong glance at his starting point. Monsters that were twisted purple were pouring through the portal in a massive stream. However, he had been unable to take any action. Despite his attempts to use several seals on it, the portal remained unaffected. Something was nudging him in the direction of his own dimension. All he could do was hope it wouldn't be too far off. It was mentally exhausting to deal with this whole strange situation. Another foul green spear blasted aside by Raphael. 12 burns splattered across his once magnificent armor. When his sword came into contact with the creature's weapon, it disintegrated, and the force of each kill began to wear thin on him. In the confusion caused by the arrival of the purple monster, he had lost sight of Rizam. His angelic group had already either been destroyed or had escaped back to heaven. He had given several people the task of bringing Michael an urgent message. Following the creature's entrance through the portal, their initial wave swiftly broke through his forces. However, during the few minutes that the battle had lasted, unforeseen help had shown up. Deities. All the gods he was familiar with and many more he had never heard of before had arrived. It was likely the first time in history that all the gods had ever convened in one location. They were also losing. Things had gotten out of control. The ancient Aztec gods, the Romans under Jupiter, the Hindus under their various leaders, the Norse under Odin, and even a few new gods raised from the crazed cults. Everyone was present and engaged in combat with the advancing creatures, as well as feeling overpowered. They were greatly outnumbered, and their acidic weapons were so powerful that they could destroy even gods and the strongest defenses. Any weapon that came into contact with the foreign weapons melted, and regeneration was severely hindered. There were already more than 200 gods exterminated, and they were all making a valiant effort to prevent the monsters from reaching Earth. There would be no chance for the humans. Because of this, a massive ceiling barrier had been built around the portal, and the creatures were ruthlessly attempting to breach any gaps in the gods' defenses. They would have to. Raphael dodged and watched as an acidic arrow passed through his chestplate. A thin, metal, engraved line. Only to have a sword descend and cut him through, head to toe. His two halves parted, and a burst of brilliant light shattered his body. His existence destroyed, his soul scattered. A number of other deities in Raphael's vicinity also fell consecutively. A breach in their defense allowed a massive influx of purple monsters to escape the containment. They created tiny rifts as they left and leapt through them into the various dimensions within this cluster. The end of the world started here on Earth and spread to the various realms inhabited by various races. Naruto was tired of being sidestepped, so he made a massive Rasengan and charged ahead. It cut a trail of blood through the combatants' corpses. Maintaining the spin on such a massive shape was a little exhausting, but his previous pace was unacceptable, and he still had plenty of chakra left. The growing tugging sensation indicated that he was probably approaching the rift in his own dimension. Metal and blood were flying from the Rasengan in all directions. As he sliced through dozens of different fights, Naruto sped by the mangled bodies and saw the slight mixture of fear and awe on the various faces. His course took him straight through the stomach of a giant creature, leaving a gaping, bloody hole. Subsequently, the feeling wavered and he perceived the pull emanating from his rear. He'd arrived later than expected. He turned and cut the Rasengan. 100 silver arrows would have filled him, but a quick body flicker kept them at bay. Giant toad men wielding naganatas engaged in combat with Snake. Men wielding unusual moonblades prior to his portal. Because the different races did not appear to be as destructively strong, the fighting in this section was a little less violent. After flitting between the two armies, Naruto emerged in front of his portal. A tiny chill went down his spine. And without more delay, he stepped through the portal and vanished in an instant. Issei gazed in stunned disbelief. Was his dragon gauntlet lost? From the elbow down, his left arm was severed in its entirety. Kiba's face had turned into a puddle on the floor as he lay dead to his right. Blasting indiscriminately at the three monsters that were approaching, Akeno and Rias stood side by side. The creature ahead of him sneered with its main mouth. In fact, the other four were giggling. Then it struck, severing Issei in half from shoulder to hip with its enormous cleaver. He lay there in shock for a few moments, not realizing his predicament. He let out an agonizing cry of pain that tore at his soul while only one lung was working. He passed out because the pain was too great. In less than 30 seconds, he passed away. Coughing back a sob, Rias watched another member of her peerage fall. After Kaneko was thrown out of the broken clubhouse window, Akeno had been hit by an arrow in her thigh and had not seen the little girl since. It's all over. Rias dropped to her knees and embraced Akeno's body. After she wept once, the enormous creature hovering above her struck, leaving them with no further information. A crimson glow emerged from the remnants of the clubhouse, and Searsx materialized on the Gremory circle with inscriptions. He had his peerage with him, all of them fully armored and ready to battle. When Searsx looked down, he saw his baby sister's lifeless body. The Kuo Academy unleashed a burst of violent energy that turned the night sky red and sent a powerful earthquake trembling through the city. With his 12 demonic wings, Searsx soared into the sky, fully revealed. He looked around the school grounds for the culprit, and an aura of power and rage enveloped him. In an instant, he saw 12 monsters and quickly arrived. The first one he tore its head off, dying instantly. The other moved swiftly, forcing the man known as Lucifer into a defensive stance with their acidic weapons. Ducked and took a few light hits to his armor. He quickly avoided multiple blows and was struck in the calf by a dagger when he kicked his foot through a monster's chest and turned to drive a second spine into the ground. 3 arrows shot from his back, one piercing his right lung and avoiding his armor. He roared in rage and gasped. Would the great Devil King be overthrown so quickly? Could he not kill her killers and exact revenge on his sister? Graphia can be seen plummeting and being crushed by a monster's club just in front of Sir Zachary's eyes. His face was covered in a mist of blood, and he reached up to wipe the remnants of his deceased wife from his cheek. His throat gave way to a strangled cry as the hordes of monsters surrounding him laughed viciously. His anger erupted into something he had never felt before. Using all of the devil energy he still had, Sir Zachary supercharged his body. He saw the wary looks on the monsters' faces as he looked up. A further 100 people emerged from a crack in the schoolyard, and Searsx grinned glumly. Kuo was completely removed from the map in a huge blast. In a tremendous explosion of fire, Searsx took his killers, his wife and sister, to the afterlife by channeling everything into a known suicide technique. Devils were falling dead all over their cities, leaving the underworld in a state of disarray. The invading monsters tore these devils of the weak class to pieces and set their buildings on fire, killing them like flies. Enormous explosions erupted throughout the terrain while the upper-class devils futilely attempted last-ditch assaults. In a similar scene, the invaders were met with the mass death of angels in heaven. The creatures tore into the sanctuary and engaged in combat with the occupants, twisting and partially melting heaven's golden gates. Gabriel had been close to the gate when the angels attacked, and Michael had been organizing them. Her guts were spilled out against the immaculate clouds that made up the floor when he discovered her missing a leg. With a feeble smile, she addressed him. Michael, don't cry like a baby. This is not what I want, Haru. Gabriel threw up on her back, her pretty face covered in blood and puke. Michael felt a tear fall down his cheek as her body stopped moving. Michael twisted defensively as a dark rift appeared close to him. The remaining monsters continued to tear through God's holy church. The floor was covered in angel blood and his golden throne was a twisted mess. For the first time in centuries, Azazel entered heaven. He turned to face Michael, grinning pitifully. I might not be an official seraph anymore. However, I want to leave this world as I entered it. I'm fighting you back. Back, brother. He witnessed Gabriel choked and splayed against the ground. Michael just gave a nod. He doubted he was capable of speaking now. The 212 winged angels, wreathed in a golden and dark energy, turned to face the oncoming wave of monsters. With a cry of rage, they charged. First to pass away was Azazel. Splintered his stomach and severed half of his head. He was mounted into the ground, stuck to the spear shaft. An energy burst that was sickly green destroyed Michael. His blood evaporated and his skin melted from his bones. From the energy wave, a bleached skeleton appeared, crumbled to dust, and vanished. Heaven was no longer. The few gods that remained were making their final stand against the never-ending flood of monsters out in the void. Soon after, the earth collapsed, and the human armies faced off against the monsters with varying degrees of success. Much of Earth was marred by craters and nuclear explosions as governments launched desperate attacks. The sea level was already dropping as hundreds of enormous craters filled in. Last to fall was the underworld. The monsters that were attacking had exposed and looted the various realms of the gods. They had shown no problem without any defenders. However, for a few hours, the different devils, yokai, and fallen angels were able to hold on. It took time to find and destroy every hiding place because the underworld was so large. The DXD cluster, 666 Apocalypse variant, was totally destroyed and looted in less than 14 hours. Just one more poor dimensional cluster, ill. Equipped to repel the overwhelming races from the larger dimensional universe. After passing through, Naruto reappeared in his own dimension. What he saw in front of him was exactly what he had remembered seeing the moment he attempted to use his father's Hiroshin and Kagaya blasted him through some bizarre portal. He had been trapped in a strange cluster, and somehow the combined space time techniques had shot him straight through the center dimensional network. However, that was no longer relevant. The despotic bitch floated in front of him. She appeared to be about to bolt, with her back turned as though she had just turned after blasting him. Naruto relived everything he had experienced. Having grown up in the midst of the Fourth Shinobi World War, he received his training in combat and picked up all the skills necessary to be a ninja in the field. Every country on the continent had been overtaken by the free-for-all, and nobody had emerged triumphant in the end. The ruins of Suna and several other small villages had been absorbed by Konoha, which was a shambles of what it had once been. Together, Iwa and Kumo had more strength, and Kiri had been completely destroyed. Then, 3 years after the Fourth World Shinobi War ended, the combined remnants of Iwa and Kumo decimated the newly rebuilt Konoha and, in tandem with Akatsuki, started the Fifth. Both the villages were destroyed, and there were little skirmishes between lone ninja groups. Staying somewhere for more than 4 days was never safe. Kagaya had been exposed in some way. She had been taking out the lone ninjas and their small groups on the run. She had accidentally discovered Naruto's group and eliminated the last of his companions. It was before he turned into a dimensional traveler that they had been working to change the terrain of Earth Country. Massive craters dotted the terrain, trees were burning everywhere, and he could just make out his friends' mutilated bodies. When Kagaya first struck, she broke up most of them with her all-killing ash bone, leaving only a few. Now that he was back and had only been gone for a few moments, Naruto sensed his old rage flare up. Unable to hide his presence, Naruto wasted no time in taking off and flying as quickly as he could in the direction of her back. One way or another, Naruto was going to exact his revenge because they had a score to settle.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.